Well, it's one of the most picturesque locations settled in the heart of the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. It's a track that we've all known for a very, very long time. It plays host to one of the more important races of the season, whereby we celebrate the history of the Australian V8 supercars all the way through the origins of the touring car days, back with your Alan Moffats, your Dick Johnsons, your John Bowles, all the way through to the modern era of the supercar. Yes, it's Sandown. It's the home of horsepower and home to the Sandown 500 in the real world. Tonight, though, we're not going to be doing 500 kilometers. Dear God, no, we'd be here until well after midnight. And the drivers, they're over 40, so they'd be all falling asleep in the Sims, as probably would I behind the commentary booth. Such would be the ask here tonight. But what it does mean is that the drivers will be walking out their retro liveries as the V8 veterans says adieu to season number 20. And tonight we crown ourselves a champion. Dean Hunt, have you had a look up and down pit lane? Is there some coloration on a car that you like somewhere?
Oh, mate, Scotty, there's so many good cars out there, so many classic liveries, most of them before my time, to be honest. I mean, the veterans really showing their colours. I'm going to be a little bit biased. My teammate, Mark Poynton, has a very lovely retro livery. It's the old, it's Rob Crisdale, I think, has the retro Mark Larkham livery. Either one of those two, it's fantastic in the old AU Falcon style, but I'm a little bit biased because it's my teammate.
You're allowed a little bit of bias. To be honest with you, Mark Poynton's actually been driving quite well this season. Been a joy to watch. He spent a little bit of time actually coming and chatting to me in race control last season, but this season he's just about stayed out of the steward's office. That is the current layout of Sandown Raceway in Springvale, Victoria. You can see the horse racing track in the centre, and you can also see as you go down the back straight towards turn 6 in the S's, just before you crest the hill, you can see some of the remnants of the old racetracks and the old layouts. She's had a few different configuration changes throughout the years, and now it's all about straight line speed. What did the old layouts look like? This is what they used to look like. A longer run down through turn 1. You used to carry on all the way down towards the back end of the straight. There was no chicane. Then you went down to turn number 2, which was the left-hander down the back straight. Then they added the chicane. They added the kink and the hairpin in the back straight, and onto the modern day layout, which is a lot more fast, a few less braking zones, but it is all about train racing and draft pack. 3.10 kilometers, so 3,100 meters in length with 13 corners and anti-clockwise. Tonight's racing information here, Dean. It's the V8 Veteran Special. Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, so tonight, 250 Ks, as you said, we'll round it a little bit, but 81 laps, you got to be 75% of the way through for your classification, which of course will be very important, being the last round. The championship is still up for grabs. The guys will be starting with 80 litres tonight, with no actual fuel restriction on what they can take on board later on. Of course, opening up the strategy to everyone. Your typical fuel burn here, about 2.5 litres a lap. And they're going to be looking to add between 119 and 131 litres. So depending on the fuel save, you said it's a bit of a draft trainy track. You can save quite a bit of fuel down that back straight into the S's at Dandenong Road, of course. And yeah, like I said, with the strategy, you've got 2 CPSs to fill tonight. You can't serve your CPS until after the end of lap 2, so it'll open then. And yeah, if we get a safety car around lap 36 or 39 for your second stop, you best be coming in because that's your critical lap. Best time to get into the lane for basically a free pit stop and jump your opponents if you can.
What about the race strategy? What do the windows look like? And here, indeed, they don't look like windows on the graph, but windows they are nonetheless. The red line is what happens if you stop immediately at the end of lap 2, the instant that you can get in for that first of the compulsory pit stop windows. You're going to aim to run through to somewhere around the lap 37 to lap 40 range, right through to about the middle point of the race. You jump back through down to the lane, 40 lap run to home from there. And I tell you what, Dan has picked at lap 37 there. That's going to be a 44 lap run to the checkered flag. You're probably not going to be seeing anyone do more than 40 laps on a stint unless you absolutely have to here tonight. Damage could play a part in that. When we're expecting the drivers in, well, the even strategy will see them in on the teal line about lap 27 and lap 54. That's going to split the strategy somewhere around the middle. 28 seconds for your first stop, 23 seconds. Those are the critical lap numbers across your 2 pit stops, somewhere in the realm of 51 seconds worth of fuel. Lap 32, that's as far as you can go on that first tank. So The window is effectively 30 laps long for both of our pit stops here tonight, Dean.
Yeah, it's really fantastic the way they've set this series up, and of course the graphics are always fantastic, so hats off to Dan. But look at the options the boys have got, and of course, you know, you don't race a race on paper. Everything that's planned doesn't always happen. So, you know, early safety car might throw a bit of a spanner in the works. You might have to stop early and then push your next stop all the way out to, you know, that 40 lap mark. It really just depends on what's going on around you. The undercut's pretty big at Sandown as well, so look out for that. But look out, like you said, I think the tyres on that really long second stint is probably not the play, but you know, sometimes you're forced to make that stop and you don't really get a choice.
Yeah, have a look at the variation, the fuel, the distance that you can go as well. Save 0.15 litres per lap. That's a lot of lift and coast you can do in the draft. You can get 47 laps to the tank. Maximum range we're expecting is around that 45 lap range, so you can extend it quite a way, and short laps means that it's a little bit easier to go that little bit further. We'll take one more step through the pre-race graphics for tonight's racing, and it is indeed our championship standings. This is critical heading into the final race of the season. Everyone wants to win themselves a big old shiny cup, but Scott Gamble's just about had a hand on that trophy since about round 3.
Yeah, he was dominant last week up until about the last corner when Ken pinched that victory off him. Of course, there was a little bit of controversy, but yeah, Ken ran away with a win there, which took some valuable points off Scotty. And Michael Whiting not too far behind, only 78 points. I believe Scott will have to have an absolute mare of a race to lose a championship now, but it's a pretty tricky track. Anything can really happen.
Well, short lap times, you can find yourself off the lead lap should drama find you, and that could be a critical thing we'll be keeping our eyes on here tonight as well. Popular racetrack Sandown, we're currently showing 38 drivers in attendance in terms of those who have set a qualifying lap. Michael Taliancic hasn't, so 39 drivers who are in attendance and in contention, one of the bigger fields that we've seen thus far this season. Blake Delaney sits in third, Jeff Thomas, Michael Stewart plus 2 spots in a 5th spot. It sort of settles down, nobody really slides massively later on. And Ken Latta, he would have been thinking at the start of the season he would have been a shot for the title. Last week he proved that he was definitely capable of it, but consistency was the key, and Detroit Belial was one of those rounds that he'll look back on and think, oh, what could have been. Scott Gamble, what does he have to do here tonight? Must finish 34th or better. He's got to finish ahead of 5 drivers. That's it. If there are 5 retirements prior to hitting that 75% distance marker, that's the big critical number that he's got to hit here tonight. Hit that 75% number, he's probably going to be okay. 5 retirements probably can happen around Sandown. That's probably going to be good enough. Michael Whiting, if he's going to win the championship, must be 34th or worse for Scott Gamble, or not be classified. That's always really, really important as well. And must win if Scott Gamble was to finish 34th or worse. Has to. Okay, so if all others DNF, must be classified to win the championship here tonight. Blake Delaney score 127 more points than Gamble and 49 more points than Whiting. Can win the championship if he finishes 26. So the points margin, just enough points by basically finishing the race. It comes down to Gamble must not finish. That is the big other marker. There are 4 more drivers who are mathematically, theoretically in contention. We're just not going to talk about them. That's how low their chances are. And Dean, that sort of sets it up. This is the minimum expectations. Scott Gamble not finishing a race hasn't happened in such a long time period, and I think I've just cursed him.
Yeah, touch wood, commentators cursing coming, but yeah, Scott Gamble, in the races I've tuned in this year, he's been absolutely dominant, super safe driver, rarely gets himself in any trouble, and I think we're probably going to see his really extended safer side tonight, because he'll know that he just needs to finish this race, and he's got his hands on that cup. But yeah, Michael Whiting and Blake Delaney behind him as well, probably trying to do anything to unsettle him. We'll get a look at the qualifying results shortly to see where they start on the grid, but yeah, especially Michael Whiting will be looking to show his nose everywhere he can to try and throw Gamble off his game.
Right, in terms of that's your point schemes, that sort of gives you a little bit of the math that's behind the business. Don't forget, we'll be tuning in with our Zoom viewers in just a few moments just to see who's made the final video call of the season. It's been worth 1 bonus point a race. She did all 10 bonus points across the season. Could have potentially picked yourself up, what's that, about 5 spots in terms of in-race positions. So pole position, fastest laps also come into it, but yeah, it's basically going to come down to Scott Gamble just needs to finish. That is, if he finishes the race, he's anywhere inside the top 30. We're not even going to be talking about a championship line locked and secured. In terms of, as we throw over now, I believe we will have our Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. We've got our Zoom feed to get through before we get into things, but the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day, and it's one of my favorite drivers that are out here and in participation. Unfortunately, I'm not 100% sure if we've actually got John Latham in the server, unfortunately, tonight, so it looks like he has not made it his attendance, but John is always one of those happy-go-lucky guys. He was unlucky a number of seasons ago back at Magny Core, whereby he picked up a slowdown penalty out of the final corner, and the short run to the line at Magny Core was not able to clear that one in time, lost the race win to, I believe, Scott Gamble on that occasion. I think that might have been season 18 of Vets, to take you back through a little bit of lore there for you, Dean. But John Latham's always a popular driver. I love seeing him do well because he's just happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, he had a really good show out last week. It was an absolute privilege to call that race. It was so much fun, but there definitely was a fight on for the lead. But meanwhile, sort of that fourth or third even back to about 7th or 8th was all up for grabs. And John Latham was right in the middle of that, and he gained quite a few spots in that race to put himself in that position, and just gave us a really good chunk of information and things to talk about on the broadcast. So really great stuff from him, and disappointing we don't get to see him out there tonight, but if he's watching, hats off to him for last week.
How about this? I'm about to give you a really, really cool stat. 20 seasons by 10 races, and guess who has made 200 starts here tonight? He's the oldest, well, not the oldest, not the most veteran of the veteran, but in terms of race starts, he is the most veteran of the veteran. And we'll be talking about Jamie McKnight in just a few moments as we celebrate his 200th start here tonight. Before we get there, though, you can see the man who is in your championship contention, and one hand upon that trophy, middle of the top row, having a chuckle, looks all relaxed. Jason Fewens, I tell you what, if you've never seen a game face, this guy has a game grimace. Jason Fewens sits top left. Dino is on the top right, and he's tuning away, tinkering to try and get the best out of himself. Scott McCune, Australia's second most unlucky sim racer, because the most unlucky one is Pete Baxter, and ask him about all the stories he has about that one. Scott McCune sits second on that all-time unlucky list. Damien Cairns sits middle. Jeff Thomas on the right-hand side. Travis Hunt will be chatting away with his chat and celebrating, and have a look at the Bathurst track map that's lit up in the background of his shot. Always a cool sim room. Dave Kirby's chilling out of the rig, middle at the moment. Christian Smart will be just to his right-hand side. Sharp will be on the bottom left, I believe. That'll be Greg Sharp on the bottom left-hand side, and Michael Stewart, who won a race this season. And have a look at the graphics he's got done up for the Ball and Stewart Air Foundation. Dean, have you been introduced to that?
No, enlighten me, Scotty, please.
Yeah, so unfortunately, and a big part of Michael Stewart's life is that his son, Barlon Stewart, was unfortunately taken from us a bit over 2 years ago, I believe it was, and the sim racing community, particularly the veterans community, all came around Michael Stewart and rose in numbers to support him, and it's about Ban the Blade for Balin is the foundation that's all supported. He's put a lot of time and effort into that one over recently, and always working for a better outcome. Right, have we got an opportunity to celebrate Jamie McKnight? I think we've got a few moments. No, I think we've actually just run out of time to celebrate Jamie McKnight, so we'll be jumping straight through to our qualifying and results. And one more time for pole position, Scott Gamble with the number 1 on his car, the defending champion, will start out of pole position for the final round of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans season number 20. Luke Grundell will start off alongside of him, which will be his best start in Split 1 history for the V8 Veterans. Could he translate that one into what could be a potentially popular podium at the end of the night? Sean McNamara and Blake Delaney start off a host of the throwback liveries on row number 2, and we'll move back to row number 3, where we'll be 5th and 6th is going to be Kenny Ladder off alongside of Michael Taliancic. Tally put a very, very late lap in just got himself into 6th. Was not looking like he was going to get a lap together in terms of qualifying, but managed to get it done. Tim Nicol had a phenomenal drive a couple weeks ago to earn himself a Chubby Buns Driver of the Day. Starts inside the top 10, off alongside of Stephen Kennedy out of 8th. Damien Cairns and David Kirby are going to round out your top 10, with the old Kmart car always gets pulled out, off alongside of the Retro Fishy. That one was their livery out of last year as well. Here's one of my more favourite cars on the grid as well, as we'll see Chad Lewis off alongside of the one that I was referencing, Michael Whiting, and there'll be some notes out of the old ERT livery for both him and Dan Hall. Dan will start out at P13 here tonight, off alongside of Christian Smart out of 14th spot, 7 rows in. Moving back to row number 8, Brad Doble's been looking reasonably consistent. We'll see if he can grab himself another top 10 here tonight, off alongside of Scott McEwen, and I won't say anything further about Scott McEwen. That's probably for the best. Jeff Thomas starts a little bit deeper in the field than definitely he would have liked. That's not a great starting position for him. Stewie Hall will be off alongside of his outside. We'll move back to round out your top 20, and it's going to be Travis Hunt off alongside of Michael Stewart. And remember, Michael's already won himself a race thus far this season. 21st and 22nd, Chris Miller and Stephen Varga, as we'll kick on through them a little bit quicker right now. 23rd and 24th, Scotty Van Loon has a better qualifying performance. My word, has his luck been poor this season. Hopefully he'll have a reasonable race. Starts off alongside of Dean Flavel. Darren Crosby and Mark Poynton. You were mentioning Mark Poynton earlier in the piece. There he is. Starts out at 26th, 13th row on the grid, and have a look at the old Mark Larkham Mustang. Robert Grisdale will be off in behind him in a different style livery, off alongside of Paul Burns. We'll get back to the 15th row of the grid. Greg Sharp off alongside of Darren Goosey for the old Mate and Sons entry, rounds out our top 30. Hallel says has a reasonable qualifying performance. I've seen him pull this livery out a few times. He's actually in a Green-Eyed Monster. Starts alongside of Matty Parker. Jim Caperonis and the Chubby Buns Burgers. That's a wild-looking car, off alongside of Jason Fewens. We'll be disappointed with that qualifying performance. 35th, 36th is going to be Shane Randall and Mario Reale. We'll get to 37th and 38th will be Jamie Knight. Oh boy, deep in the field for him. And 38th is going to be Gary Buckland. And then finally on the rear row of the grid is going to be Robbie Griffiths. And with 20 seconds to spare, we got through 38 drivers in 3 minutes. Dino, anyone you got your eye on?
Oh, that was a speed run, but man, so many good liveries out there. A few of the Fishy boys are really showing out every time I see them in their retro liveries. They always do a fantastic job. So whoever's sorting their liveries out for the Fishy boys, big hats off to you guys. But I think we're about ready to get going here, and I bet these boys are itching to finish the season off on a high note.
Right. 20 seasons worth of V8 veterans. It's been a celebration this season. RaceKraft V8 veterans, the final time for season number 20 from Sandown International Motor Raceway, and they get away from the front row of the grid. Grundell's got a reasonably good start. Who is that on row number 2? I don't think it was Delaney. It was the other driver on row number 2. It'll be Sean McNamara, who's gone backwards, but Grundell's going to try and go the outside way around at turn number 1. Does come away with the lead. Delaney's going to pick the pockets of Scott Gamble as well. So Gamble starting on the front row. Oh, Delaney skips across the curbs at turn 2 and turn 3. Is that a slowdown? Yes, he is. He's going to have to get off the racing line. Oh, it's all gone crazy in the first couple of corners. Gamble skips back through, and Luke Grundell is going to lead laps of the V8 veterans on pace.
Wow, what a start. We got a driver around at the back as well. Matty Parker's gone around at turn 3. I don't think he's picked up any damage, but he has not got his race off to a good start. I think he copped some contact on the way into turn 3 and went around. So we'll have to catch up with what happened to him. But wow, amazing start from the boys at the front. Scotty Gamble losing out on Luke Grundle. That's massive.
And it was a big amount of checkups down at turn number 4, as it always does happen at Sandown. Everyone just sort of fires in there, and it is a parking lot. Grundell, though, has got an opportunity. He's been improving over the course of the season. Finally leads the race. 0.8 of a second the lead on the run down at turn number 1. If he breaks the toe here to Scott Gamble, he might just disappear up the road. That could be crucial as we go radio style for our broadcast for just a few moments, as we're having technical issues in the background. So what I'm going to let you know is what the running order is at the conclusion of lap number 1. Grundell leads Gamble, and he's getting close to running away from this one as well. Ken Latta has skipped his way through from 5th on the grid to 3rd. Talianchis now sits 4th. Something further has happened to Blake Delaney. Skipped across the curbs at 2 and 3, picked himself up at slowdown, sits 6th on the road. Tim Nichols 7th to 5th as well, so he sits inside the top 5. This is going to be an interesting old night here, Dean. It's going to be tough and tricky, and well, the drivers that qualified up front, they're not staying up front either.
No, they're not. It's all shuffling around. And speaking of shuffling around and qualifying, Michael Whiting in P2 for the championship, he started all the way back in P12. He's only gained up a couple of positions already, but I can see that he is dialing up the aggression already. He's trying to get as close as he can to Scott Gamble, knock on the door for that championship lead. But the boys are all sort of filed out, single file now. Seeing Chris Miller has made his way to the pits after that incident, so perhaps he did pick up some damage. But yeah, and I think Sean McNamara's just dropped out of the session as well. Maybe a technical issue for him.
Oh no, he hasn't been able to make every race of this season, and he was looking for some potential podiums across the duration. It's not been a good one, but hey, first season in Vets, sometimes it's, get some time under your belt in the conditions of the racing server and move your way forwards. So that might be the ultimate goal. Blake Delaney's starting to track down Tim Nicol again for 5th spot on the road as Nichols sits there at the moment. Cairns sits in a really, really comfortable 7th spot. Stephen Kennedy was 8th at the start of the lap, now sits 10th. And Greg Sharp is going to receive himself a drive-through penalty, which was what turned Matty Parker at the tail end of the field as well.
That's a shame. Not how you want to start your race, but it's pretty hard to go too wide and 3 wide through those chicanes and S's. But nonetheless, I think we haven't seen it yet, but there's probably definitely a deserved penalty if it's given outright race control. But meanwhile, as well, on the Michael Whiting watch, he's gained another spot. He's up another spot to chase down that championship as well. I've just been sort of keeping an eye on him in the background, and at the moment he's up into P9, so just slowly making his way through the field and trying to knock on the door again, like I said. And Blake Delaney, obviously, I think he is currently sitting in P6 at the moment, so he's dropped a couple of spots. He dropped 2 spots to Mike Taliancic and Tim Nicol, so his fight for that championship is slowly dwindling, but I'm sure it's a long race, plenty of time to catch back up.
Yeah, indeed. 250 kilometres the duration here tonight, 251.80. And I tell you what, Whiting's just gone for a big old stand down the inside of Dan Hall. Lots of pinch brakes, locks them all up as they get down to Dandenong Road. And Dan Hall just quietly rides along around the outside. So Whiting's certainly got some pace underneath him. He'll be looking to try and make his way forwards and feels as if maybe potentially might have been held up. We were saying at the start of the show, Gamble needed to fall away a little bit, needed to have some disaster. It did happen on lap one of his worst lap ones of the season, you would actually say, but he recovered well, and now he's going to sit right on the back end of Grundle, and Grundle is just starting to get the elbows out. He's blocking already, Dean, so when you lead your first V8 Veterans race, you kind of want to lead it all the way through.
Yeah, this is the V8 Veterans equivalent of leading Max Verstappen after a couple of laps. He's holding on to that for dear life. V8 Supercars reference would be Scott McLaughlin a few years ago. But Luke Grundle at the moment, he's just snatched that away at turn 1 with a fantastic launch and really doing everything he can to hold on to it. And this maybe caused Scott a few headaches, but if you're Scott Gamble at the moment, probably just relaxing, making sure that you can still finish the race. He was showing his nose to Luke early in the lap at turn 1, but wasn't really close enough to make a move. So just cruising along at the moment. Look for him to maybe make a move eventually, because he's definitely got the pace. But for at the moment, Grundle doing a fantastic job keeping him behind.
Yeah, the big key as well is that our front duo have become a front quartet, because now Ken Latta and Michael Taliancic are going to be joining them in just a few moments. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get you pictures from the race server, hopefully, in just a few moments. Indeed, there they are, right on cue. So Luke Grundle leads the way from Scott Gamble. That is Ken Latta that sits third. One of the difficulties, of course, of a retro round. The usual livery is not normally enforced, but Michael Taliancic does have his usual livery. And Gamble now sits significantly closer than he did. Chris Miller's made his way into the pit lane as well. As it currently stands at Gamble, he's going to show the nose as they get up to the crest at 6. He does give him the inside. There's contact because Gamble didn't necessarily park it all the way across. He wasn't completely clear. Grundle looks up, nearly ends up at the back bumper of Gamble. And how there wasn't a tiff on, I have no idea, but they've all got out the other side. And Latta's knocked out as well. Latta's going to fire it down the inside of the second to last corner, still trying to go the long way around at 13. Finally settles back in. Might present an opportunity for Taliancic to buy into this one.
Yeah, I don't know how they did not make contact there. Grundle was really locked up and almost a passenger of that Commodore, but somehow managed to pull it up, and I'm surprised that Ken Latta couldn't pick up the pieces there. He almost had the move done and through the final last 2 corners, but look at the gap that Scott Gamble's put on the boys behind him now as well. 1.8 seconds is the margin, and they're all going to be arguing over this P2. Especially Ken Latta, we saw he can make some moves in the last round for the lead. There was a couple of lead changes back at Road Atlanta, so he's got some good moves under his belt. So watch for Taliancic as well. His race was ended a bit early last round, and he'll be looking to make amends tonight. So it's all on for that second spot at the moment.
It is all on, and right now you think might be a little bit of track position because you could just always get a safety car. By the way, this battle pack for the lead now sort of extends back to about Blake Delaney, and then there's a second train, and the head of the second train, actually, sorry, my apologies, Damien Kantz. He's just about to buy onto the back end of this train as they're all starting to get caught up behind Grundell. Dan Hall leads the way on the second train. The same sort of things happening. Remember we were talking about Michael Whiting being up and being with him earlier on. Well, that's continued on. So Michael Whiting's still trying to find his way past Dan Hall. Oh, and by the way, we're already 7 laps into this race. And I just heard a big clutch save from Michael Whiting. Pretty common strategy from the Fishy. They do like to save themselves some fuel.
Yeah, and I think that's the way to go with such a long race. And we saw there was quite a few opportunities for different strategies depending on how your race is unfolding. He's probably just sitting behind Dan thinking, your pace is pretty good, I'll stick behind you for a few laps, save some petrol, and it'll open up my options, because as soon as that safety car comes in, because I would bet my house on it that we're going to get a safety car at some point tonight. It's Sandown after all. But as soon as that safety car comes in, his options will be a lot more open than those who don't fuel save. And of course, you won't have to take as much fuel to get to the end at the end of the day, which will save you time in the pits. It's all a pretty simple equation, but as long as he can keep his pace up, he's stuck behind that 4.62. Dan Hall at the moment, just using him as a windbreaker, sitting in that draft, doing a fantastic job to keep that fuel economy up.
One of the most interesting things I think about Sandown as well, 1 minute and 6 seconds qualifying lap times as well. So it means effectively 67, 68 seconds-ish is sort of your field spread before you start to get into lap traffic, as the lap times will sort of degrade a little bit. So strategy could be dictated at the back end of a stint, potentially by what the lap traffic do. And if you're off the back end of the lead train, you know what your strategy is going to be. You can't afford to go a lap down and then have a safety car get in the way. Effectively, you just lose everything if you've got to get way past the safety car. So, you know, risk versus reward, it's not something you see anywhere else. Maybe the only other place really in terms of the real world calendar is Simmons Plains and Barbagallo, and the only reason that it's also happening there is, again, short lap times, quick fire lap times effectively bring lap traffic into play.
Yeah, definitely. And about on the last lap, there was about 1.4 seconds between Scott Gamble's last lap time and Greg Sharp's, all the way back down in P37. So if my maths, I'm not going to even bother trying that, but I reckon we're going to get plenty of lap traffic. And here we go, we've got a spinner on the final corner. Who's that? Ewens. Getting tagged by the number 5 machine there.
They're going to bump again on the front, now the front straightaway nearly into the Armco. So paint has been traded, and for Jason Fewens, left front splitter damage has been traded on the run down to number 1. Still not done deeper in the field as well. This is out for 30th, 31st. They get another touch. So in the space of 2 corners, they've touched, 4 or 5 times across that duration.
Paint's so nice, you just want to trade him. But what we've seen, what I saw last round as well, it was the second round of Vets I've commentated, and it doesn't matter what the position is, the boys love to scrap. It doesn't matter if it's for 30th or 31st or first place, you know, the boys love to fight over positions, and that's what it's all about. Still not giving up here is the number 5, so you know, keep an eye on that one. There's Jamie McKnight. I think there's a special night for him, Scotty.
Indeed it is. Mr. 200 Club, the only driver with that many starts in Vets. So yeah, you can absolutely say he's got the most starts in Vets, hand down. 200 starts, 200 Thursday nights he's committed to racing in this season. He's been around for so long, they started making him do the setups to go racing as well. Multi-time champion back in the earliest days of the V8 Veterans Series. In fact, won them before they were broadcast. Broadcast kicked him out season 7, season 8, because, you know, when you've got an older community, they tend to keep a lot of records, a lot of stats, and yeah, Jamie McKnight's been a winner, been a champion, and now starts. Look, 200 is that's a lot of years worth of racing.
Well, that's got to be what, like, I don't know, how many seasons is that? Like 7 or 8, maybe?
All of
I'm
them.
not sure. How many seasons? All of them. Every single one. And what season are we in now? Season 20 or something?
20. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Oh, something's happened to Dan Hall. Something's just happened to Dan Hall. It was Michael Whiting, remember, that was just in behind him. Could that be some form of championship implications? So that'll be interesting to keep a note on. And indeed, he did actually make an overtake on that lap. So it's a position to be traded. Luke Rundell now goes side by side with Ken Ladder as well. This is for P2 on the road. And Taliencic, they're all going to stack up. They're all going to queue in behind. Where does the support from Taliencic go? Because Ladder has managed to get his head to the front of this little battle pack. Could the bump draft be coming? Indeed, the bump draft does now come from Taliencic. He gets there, gets a little bit of assistance. Grundell's now going to be on the outside when they get up here to Dandenong Road. And Tally actually trying to show the notes, trying to get down the inside. Grundell's still going to monster it up and over the curbs. They all manage to hang on to it. Tally fires it down the inside now. Does get alongside, not far enough. Ladder goes through, and the only one that does.
That's some fantastic car control there from basically from all three of them. Oh! What's happened there? Has he got a slowdown maybe? I'm not sure. Just cooked it into the corner, but oh, he's going to lose out big time here, Scotty.
Yeah, so he's already lost 2 spots to Grundell and Taliencic. Gamble in the meantime just skipped away to the tune of 6 seconds whilst they're doing all of this. Now the support comes his way from Blake Delaney as he jags onto the back end of that one, gets back down the inside, and it'll be Tim Nicol on the run down to turn number 1. Delaney's also going to try and slot back in there. They all feed back in. Finally. And that took a bit over a lap to sort out.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what happened to Ken Ladder there. He just sort of got on the brakes on the way into the second last corner and relinquished that position. I'm not exactly sure what's happened there. And car get turned there. That's a 462 machine. My V8 Vets number law is not the best. I'm not sure what that is.
Dan
Hall. That's what we were just talking about.
Critically, that was by Michael Whiting, so that is championship impacting potentially. So now that effectively means for Whiting there's a potential of a drive-through penalty coming his way, as we'll take another look at it on the run down into the second to last course. Turn 12 does get up along the inside. The critical factor race control will be looking at, does he get enough overlap at which point and where the car's trending. So investigation in progress, and it did sound, I don't know if you caught it, Dean, but Dan Hall sound a little bit disappointed on the radio to you?
Wouldn't you be if you got turned from that position?
Absolutely.
I think he was having a pretty good race, but yeah, it's the overlap was there. It's just a question of was it enough, and we see it quite a lot in the V8. It's very easy to spin once you get under the throttle under your own control of the car, but when you add another one pushing the back of it around, it makes it a lot harder to keep it on track.
From experience?
Very much so.
My experiences in the supercar as well.
Oh, I cannot drive these things to the life of me. I'd love to be able to learn, but no, they're just a handful. I mean, I used to have the Porsche Cup, but I can't drive that anymore either, so I'm running out of options.
You might be hanging up the gloves the way things are going as well. So we're going to bid adieu, Dean Hunt, from the... Oh, interesting. Race control just come through. There's just an update that's just come through, and it's a redress for Luke Grundell, and I believe it might have been behind Ken Ladder, actually.
Yeah, because that was where the bump draft was happening. I'm not sure if there was contact under braking or something following that we didn't pick up, or what happened there. Oh, a little bit of contact there for Stephen Kennedy into the back of... I'm not sure who that is either. These new liveries are really tripping me up, but a bit of contact on the way to turn 1.
55 is Kennedy, and that's McCune in the 77, and now there's more contact, and then there's even more contact in the 919 machine.
driving the supercar is that you can get them flick spinned pretty quickly, and I think that's one benefit. If you get spun, you can get it around quickly, but of course you just had to wait for the entire field to get past. They're so bunched up together still after 16 laps. You got to be really careful not to rejoin in front of someone.
Okay, so this Grundle, so whatever the redress was for, so already Grundle's gotten by at this point in time, but whether or not there was... So this is start of lap 12 on the run down to turn 1 and 2, and Ladder will get down the inside. And Grundle's been blocking aggressively at this point in time. Turns in from the wider line. Doesn't get the job done. No contact at this point in time, but where, yeah, there is a little bit of contact there, and that does force Ken Ladder out and over. Potentially a slowdown picked up by Ladder there too, so...
Yeah, that's what I reckon. He just jumped on the brakes really early through that final the final 2 corners, and he was very long way off track there. I reckon that's a slowdown big time.
That's a long way to go with the slowdown penalty. Like, if he hasn't cleared it by then, it would be quite a massive slowdown penalty anyway. So I don't necessarily think it was, but it led to some interesting racing. Grundle's actually starting to respond again as well, coming back at him just a little bit. Talianchik just skipped on through margin now for the race lead, 7.5 seconds. So Gamble's off and in his own island once again. But now it becomes this second little group, and the key will be the next group in behind these guys as well has been broken up a little bit. It was Whiting, I think, was at the head of that group, and Michael Whiting's actually driven away from the group in behind and automatically tagged back onto Damien Cairns. So with all that squabbling that was going on up ahead, David Kirby's now got to the head of the second group and sits 9th on the road, and Christian Smart with him. Chad Lewis, Scott McCune, the next few cars on road. So field spread starting to occur just a little bit here, Dean.
Yeah, and I think for Michael Whiting, he did get into that little incident before, so we'll see. I'm not sure if there's been anything from race control yet, but yeah, the guy's sort of thinning out at the moment. You can see there on the positions gained and lost sort of graph. There's quite a few movers and shakers, especially up in the top 15 at the moment. Lots of little green arrows there, but the guy's sort of thin out a bit. Look at that gap there between... I think that's between Michael Whiting and Christian Stewart. That huge gap to the big the group in front, but then behind them it's not too different. So the sort of top 8 are just sort of pulling away a bit, and the top 1 even more so, just pulling away is 7 seconds in front of Talianchik now. But Jamie McKnight showing in his 200th race, he knows how to overtake up 9 spots.
Yeah, he's the biggest winner at this point in time. Caperonis will be interesting to keep an eye on. Can he win his own sponsored Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day? I think he deserves to get one just for sponsoring this series, don't you?
That's fair, I think. I suppose he'd get a free burger anytime, but...
That would be unhealthy. I would not be a healthy man if I was a chef.
Oh, me neither. If you see a skinny chef, you can't trust them, I reckon. Their cooking mustn't be that good if they don't eat it themselves.
Who is it that used to have the cooking show on Channel 10, and that was their slogan, never trust a skinny chef?
I think you're showing your age here compared to...
Says the man who's about to become a dad, so... You get room to make dad jokes now. I don't have a pass.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've been warming up for the last 10 years, I reckon, so I think I'm ready to go.
Give it your best one. Surely you've practiced and ready to go.
Oh, I mean, Scott in the lead at the moment's not really gambling this away, is he?
If he does, he'll know who to call.
I said last week when Ken Ladder made a move for the lead, and I'll repeat it because I'm pretty proud of it. I said the ladder became the former. And Dan didn't even laugh, so it can't have been that good.
So for those of you who don't know, Dan the Yeoman sits behind the scenes of things here tonight. And Thursday night last week, he was preparing for his first ever LAN event that he was in charge of. And did quite admirably, all things considered. But if I'd have known that Friday night last week, I would have given him a stern talking to in person for you, Dean. So. And just a reminder that if you've ever thought of taking broadcasting in the background, no one in the commentary box is safe, not even the producer.
Nope. And he can't defend himself live either. He's talking to us at the moment, trying to come back, but no one can hear it.
I'm just disappointed. I get to meet Chris Blanchard here, actually, in the not-too-distant future. I'm actually just taking a look out in YouTube chat. Chris Blanchard and I are both from the same hometown. I've known of him for a number of years. I probably actually met him when I was a younger kid and just didn't remember. So, but I'm disappointed Chris isn't in the sim tonight. Took a trip down to Tasmania to go watch supercars in person at Simmons Plains. Is it take a trip to Tasmania, or is it go freeze everything off to go see supercars? Because I think it's the latter on that one.
Big time. Can't say I've been to Tasmania, but I've heard it's bloody cold, and especially in winter when the mountains come up, the sun goes down behind the mountains, it gets pretty dark. I think it's around the Hobart area, but beautiful little track, Simmons Plains. I don't think, unfortunately, we'll ever see it in iRacing, but great little circuit, very narrow, so I reckon that would prove a massive challenge in the sim, but that's the 999 there getting a little bit crossways.
So it'll be Christian Smart inside the top 10. Manages to hang on to thing. Freeze, 8 degrees last Sunday, top temperature of 8 degrees. There's a reason I think you live over on the western side of the country, Dean, and it's to avoid winters like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was born here, I just never left, so, I mean, I hate the heat, to be honest, but I think it would take a while to get used to the cold.
One driver who's trying to line up the heat at the moment, David Kirby, and that's Christian Smart. So that car that you just saw with a few issues on the front straightaway, just in front of him at the moment. So, in terms of turning up the heat, Kirby's attempting to do that right now.
Yeah, Kirby the Ghost is looking... Yeah, either that or he's looking to suck in Christian Smart like Kirby the Ghost. Anyway, he's looking a lot more happier than I saw him last time on the Zoom feed last week. He got, of course, turned around at Road Atlanta and did not look too happy on the feed, but he looks like he's in the zone at the moment. Probably saving fuel here behind Christian Smart. Look at the gap between Smart and Whiting. It's 6 seconds or so, so a long way back, but you know, anything can still happen. Still plenty of time left in this race, so look to see. Oh, we just had a change.
Drama for P2. Drama for P2. Ken Ladder is around, and there's huge damage to a number of cars in that pack. Taliangic just got damage. It's not major front-end damage, and Ken Ladder's trying to get the car turned around at this point in time. Ladder's missing the front splitter. There's more cars in that pack that have got damage. There's a bunch of them. It's Tim Nichols. Tim Nichols' 9 is just about destroyed as well.
Yep, Ladder's got a meatball. That car is looking very, very second-hand. Tim Nicol, no meatball for him, but obviously carrying a lot of damage there, so have to have a look at that one in the pits, and we'll have to look at it on the broadcast as well. But Ken Ladder dropping down all the way to 23rd place now.
So is this just Talianchich losing it on his own? Because Tally's got damage, and he's too far out. Yeah, there it is. There goes the rear end of the car. Arrests it, releases the brake, and there's nowhere really to go for anyone that's arrived on the scene there. And Tally thought he probably just had a few extra meters just to save that one. There's going to be a number of cars that are diving into the pit lane at this point in time. Something's just happened to Paul Burns as well, so there's a bunch of cars with a ton of damage. Jim Caparonis is involved.
Yeah, Caparonis in the lane at the moment.
Stop. We might be getting that safety car. I think it might be Burns.
Yeah. Just requested a tow as well in the radio down at the S's on the way into Dandenong Road.
Oh boy. There's a ton of cars that are all in this one. A first safety car of the night for V8 Veterans Grand Finale for the RaceKraft season number 20, and that is going to mean that everyone will be neutralised in terms of strategy. Grundle stayed out with the damage that was on that car. He's picked up potentially some ground here. Gamble's going to lead the way and dive in the lane. I don't think there's going to be much of a question about the entire field diving into the lane at this point in time, so they're all in. And the opportunities for strategy to go in the right direction or the wrong direction are about to come along.
Yeah, you've got to come in now. It's really a no-brainer. You can't really give your opponents any more of an advantage by not taking this very cheap, very free, easy pit stop. So definitely this is going to shake up the order a bit. I imagine a couple of guys might stay out, depending on, I think, some of them were already past the pit entry line when the safety car was called, so they've missed their sort of opportunity, and it will be a slightly lesser advantage for them.
I can tell you, I think the entire field, bar Sean McNamara, is going to get back on the lead lap here too. So I think Scott Gamble has just filled the tank. So remember, in terms of things, we're actually looking to try and get about 51 seconds or so in terms of fuel, and Gamble's on the run down to turn number 1, so he's going to lead the way. Who's fed out behind? Damien Cairns has underfilled this car. So Damien Cairns is going to pop out in P2.
Promoting track position here. So yeah, that's a big jump for him, Damien Cairns. He's up 7 spots now, and Christian Smart as well, up 11. So potential, yeah, big time underfueling there for those guys. Maybe looking at a short middle stint, going longer in the final, and just prioritising that track position, because we know and we've seen it so far that it is pretty tricky to overtake here at Sandown. And when you get a safety car, of course, the whole field's bunching up again, and there's an old saying, safety cars breed safety cars. So maybe they're thinking, you know, maybe there's a bit of carnage on the restart they're trying to avoid. That run down into turn number 1 is very long. When you're on a safety car restart, when you're towards the mid to the back end of the field, you're spending a lot of time at full throttle before you get to that first corner. And when you're all bunched up, that means there's positions changing and people sleeping at the wheel, not ready for the restart. It all gets jumbled up. And yeah, so I guess maybe part of that strategy is just keeping your nose clean as well.
Yeah, so I can tell you, Sean McNamara's got back to 1 lap down at this point in time. So he was basically way past the safety car because they were waiting to try to catch the leader. His teammate is the leader, so he's gotten back to 1 lap down. But now for Sean McNamara in the lane, long stop. We'll get back out on the racetrack and potentially try and grab 2 back just because of where he is in terms of strategy. Try and give you 1. And it's just talking about, so we're going to have a look at what's happened here for Paul Burns, and that would be Ken Latta, and that's Jim Caperonis that follows him into the barriers in behind, and Ken's not got a lot of steering at this point in time.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, Paul Burns here, we're going on board. He's got plenty of time to get around it, but yeah, he's just sort of, yeah, I think Ken Latta's just shown in the inside of the corner and then moved over a little bit. Of course, Ken Latta's car is probably very difficult to control in that moment. Really unlucky there for Paul Burns, and another car getting caught up in that as well. I didn't catch who that was, but dropping a fair bit of damage. Jim Caperonis, I think he towed without permission by mistake, I heard over the race control radio, so I'm not sure he'll be taking any further part in this one tonight.
Yeah, and I've got Jason Fewens jumping back into the pit lane as well. So I think you remember there's a lot of damage to the left front corner of Jason Fewens' car. So I think he's come back in and cleaned up as much of that as he possibly can. And, well, you may as well just get the tank full, right? So, because if he's already at the back and he's taking damage, get it cleaned up.
Yeah. I think, yeah, if you're at the back already, you may as well get your 2 stops done onto this same safety car and just get onto the back of the grid, because you can't do that. You can't do both CPS in one period. So
I see you were looking for the on the strategy, but yes, so it's written in. Well, the other key here is that you can't make it home until about lap 37 anyway, so we are still short on that one by to the tune of about 13 laps. So what it does do though is shortens that final stop, and if I'm at the tail end of this field, I'm coming back in again. Stephen Kennedy, Mario Reale, Jason Fewens, Robbie Griffiths, some of those guys at the back end of the field. Why not? What have you got to lose?
Nothing to lose, everything to gain. That's the back markers mentality, and Sean McNamara looks like he's going to get back on the lead lap. So, of course, he suffered a technical difficulty at the start of the race, and you mentioned, Scotty, that he hasn't been able to enter a lot of the rounds this season, and I think last week he had some sort of issue as well, or didn't take to the start, and we didn't see much of him as well. So yeah, I think he dropped out on us in the last race too, so maybe a phone call to his ISP tomorrow, I'm not sure. But good news for him at the moment, getting back on the lead lap, which is cool, and another fantastic looking retro livery for him.
Yeah, so update on Paul Burns, has managed to get his way back out of the race. The other car that was laps down, I believe, is Chris Miller, although I think there's a drama of some sort of technical issue. But he's still on the race server, but he's done for the day. He will not classify, I don't think, anymore.
Yeah, he's been in the pits for 20 minutes. I don't think he's coming back out.
So I think that might have been a license point penalty he was attempting to serve, which, I mean, he showed up, he has served the penalty now. Shane Randell at the tail end of the field is going to dive into the lane and top that car up. which, remember what I was talking about? If you haven't got track position, a little bit of strategy position, not the worst.
No, not at all, and that's exactly what Damien Cairns has done. Just having a quick look at the pit stop times towards the front of the field. Scott Gamble took 38 seconds in his box, whereas Damien Cairns only took 26, so huge difference there. So he's probably majorly underfield. We'll be looking to see him stop pretty soon, but just going up and down my timing sheet here, there's a lot of difference in pit stops in terms of time in the box. So yeah, look to see some staggered pit stops if we don't get another safety car and a green flag run to the end. Plenty of different strategies on at play here for all the drivers.
Yeah, indeed it will be. Safety car is in the lane, 80 kilometers an hour. The safety car maintains speed that he's just been informed of, so he'll take control of the field and he'll try and lean us back out again. Damien Cairns will have a light, agile car with 12 seconds less worth of fuel, but that's a huge margin to try and make up. Jeff Thomas has underfueled that car in the middle in terms of strategy as well, to grab himself some track position. I believe he was outside the top 10 prior, and he does have some damage to the right front corner of that car. So for Jeff Thomas, he will be light and agile, but is a little bit walking wounded.
Yeah, same as Travis Hunt, underfueled a fair bit, 24 seconds, and jumped a few spots to get himself into the top 10 as well. Both Jeff Thomas and Travis Hunt up 12 positions each from where they started. Another big one, Rob Crisdale, 18 seconds in the lane. That's probably the shortest one that I've seen. So here we go, racing again.
Yeah, indeed, we are firing off the last corner. Not too much of a surprise where the jump was made. Now Luke Grundel, though, is going to try and make some time up. Christian Smart's actually the closest out of anyone to trying to make a move, and he is in a light, agile car at the pointy end of this field as well. Delaney took a reasonable amount of fuel, stopped and dropped a little bit down the order, as is Michael Talianchi, who now has a fresh race car underneath him. Reasonably sedentary up and down the field as everyone just sort of snakes their way through the lap. And the other benefit as well is it bunches the field back up together again here, Dean. So we're talking about lap traffic. We're getting, it would have still been another 10 or 15 laps, but it would have been about to become a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, big time, and I think Scott Gamble in front there is just really enjoying the fact that he doesn't have to lap anyone. It's difficult enough to pass someone on the same lap as you here, but trying to navigate the lap traffic. And if you're a lap down as well, which I'm sure that you've had plenty of experience with, Scotty, it's not easy to get out of the way here either. So Scott Gamble, yeah, really enjoying probably that factor, but he's already pulling away a little bit from Damien Cairns here. Half a second is the gap at the moment, of course. He had the advantage off the restart to get a launch ahead, but we all know if you've driven the supercar at least once, cold tyres and a full fuel tank, is not the easiest feat to keep on track. So the guys who've taken a full tank have definitely got their work cut out for them.
I would like to put a statistic out there, and it's probably a statistic that I don't know is 100% correct, but I would say is probably quite likely. I would say I'm probably the driver who's led the most laps in SimSpeed prior to his first win. So it might be because I'm ovals, and it might be because I dominated a whole bunch of oval races and then did silly things to put myself into the fence, cough, under safety car. But, yeah, so look, I know what it's like to be a lap down. I also know what it's like to be in front and never win, so there's that too.
Yeah, I mean, I like to poke fun at you for that, but I'm probably even worse. I'm always got the blue flags up, so I'm sure you've seen that in a few times you've called me. But here's a better hunt, Travis. He's on the hunt, if you will, for Blake Delaney's position. He's up 12 spots at the moment, and he's one of those guys that took a shorter pit stop, 24 seconds, so you'll have a little bit less fuel in the car, a lot more agile than the cars around him. So yeah, Blake Delaney got another 11 seconds of fuel on Travis Hunt in front. So yeah, nimble little Mustang there for Travis, and he's got that beautiful little sim room set up. It took me a second to realise behind him was a mirror and not a friend of his in the background.
Because I just figured it out as you mentioned it.
Hey, what do you reckon his favourite track is though?
No idea. It's probably not on a wall somewhere just behind him, displayed potentially with lights around it. So we'll never know. But yeah, you're right. And Dicer gets on it as well and says props to the vets for getting around the Zoom call as well.
That's a good incentive, an extra championship point. I think they all add up, like you said, 10 rounds, 10 points if you get on every Zoom call. Doesn't take a lot. 11 points.
Oh. So there's the sprint races, and apparently you got 1 point for each of the races for being on the Zoom call for each of the races. So there you go. In the meantime, Talianchis really isn't making any ground at this point in time. He took the longest up as well. Gamble's just cruising in control. He's already dropped Damien Cairns as well in terms of that draft. Grundell's not making any headway back towards Damien Cairns. So if he can keep breaking him and try and skip clear, well, the under fuel strategy might be starting to play off a little bit, because the other thing is that they are ahead of where all the potential drama is, and that's the key to the undercut strategy, Dean.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I say that now, but just a minute ago, the drama was all at the front of the field, so it can really happen anywhere. But yeah, checking in on Blake Delaney here, currently third in the championship at the start of the race. Needs to get his way up towards the front of the field, and banking on some issues for Scott Gamble to resume his championship fight as well. And Michael Whiting, currently sitting P2 in the championship, and didn't have the greatest qualifying. He's gained a couple of spots, but has since calmed down, and it looked like he was on a real tear at the start, making some moves, getting some overtakes done, but for now he's just sitting at the last spot of the top 10, and yeah, probably just hoping that that Scotty Gamble has some issues up front.
I was just going to say as well, there was an update from Race Control regarding the incident between Dan Hall and Michael Whiting. And this is going to sound mean to everyone watching at home because I said there's an update. The update is that there is no update. They're going to investigate it post-race. So the championship, if something happens to Gamble, the championship will end with a question mark over it. So, but we've got to get there first, and that's the secondary key. I think there's enough in it. I don't know that... yeah, and the tricky part as a race car driver is if you serve the penalty, let's say, for example, Greg Sharp, who served that penalty for the contact with Matty Parker, will serve his drive-through penalty, take on the back end of the queue after the safety car, and now his night starts again. But for Michael Whiting, if he gets a drive-through penalty issued post-race, you can't do anything about it.
You can't, and you're just sort of sitting there. Oh, Ken Ladder goes around again. Oh,
he's in his over.
That's it. Ball's come straight into race control as well. Of course, he's obviously not going to be too happy about that. Catch the car that he got tangled up with, but as they're coming out of the final corner, it looked like the rear quarter panel of Ken Ladder was just... Yeah,
I think he's missing a rear tyre.
Yeah.
I reckon he's going to have get a tow here, so we might get another safety car. We're still outside the range to get home. So he's not got drive to one of the two tyres at the rear end, and he is on the main straight, and they're going to have to alert. So they're just communicating to all the drivers at the moment to use caution, stay to the left-hand side of the road because they can't see it. Now they're coming out of the final corner and they will see it. So it's been called over the radio to say there's a car parked up. There's a bunch of cars in the pit lane. They're serving their final pit stop. We are 5 laps shy of the window, by the way. We are less than 5 laps shy. You know, yes. This could be a masterstroke. This could be a masterstroke or a complete mishap. Who's into the lane? We've got to watch this. Tim Nichols in.
Yeah, if you're in the mid pack and looking to gain something, I'm diving in every day of the week. You've got to take your chances, try and save some fuel towards the end of the race. But
where did McNamara get to? McNamara got through to about 25th or so prior to that safety car coming out. So gain of what, 10, 12 spots or so. I'm surprised he didn't take it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, yeah, he's up in 22nd now, so jumped a few guys that did take it. But yeah, Tim Nichol taking his stop and 49 laps to go on one tank of fuel. And I'm not sure if it's possible, and the tyres are probably even more of a factor. I mean, the rears especially get really minced in these cars, and obviously they get cars, the tyres that are propelling the car, and an easy way to make you go around once they get worn out, especially in the old V8 supercar.
So there'll be a few things to sort of check on. So for the viewers watching along at home that might have been looking there going, that safety car was out of field while the previous time, yes, it was, the field spread was quite big, and when you got a very well spread field, and the other key was the fact that there was a bunch of cars that were sort of not contaminating the field because the safety car came out, did capture the leader quite quickly, so they did get through, but there was, with this pit cycle, there was a few issues there. So what happened was it took them a fair bit longer to capture the leader, capture the entire field, so that we could go back to racing. This time the field's actually already condensed because it just had a safety car breeds safety cars. Thank you for saying that earlier, Dean. This will be a shorter one. So I think it was 4 to 5 laps last time. They should see this one be about 3 laps because they'll just go, yep, Paul Burns is the only lapped car, release him, he's gone straight through the front, everyone's done their pit stops, go, basically. So it should be about a 3-lap safety car period instead of the extra couple last time, but they definitely needed it last time.
Yep, 100%. And that's the thing with the way they run these sim leagues, is they want it to be as realistic as possible, and that's what really adds to it as well, I think. You do all the wave rounds, you do all the safe exiting of the towing of the vehicle, and Jason Puins has made 3 stops, which is interesting. I think he had that damage earlier on, which is
more drivers
why,
in. There's more drivers in. Kevin Knight and Robbie Griffiths are both in.
You were surprised that McKnight didn't come through earlier. I wonder if he'd already come past it.
Yeah, maybe he had and then just thought about it, but we're just going to trickle closer and closer. If we get another safety car, say in 5 laps time, I'll make it home. These guys won't have to pit again.
Yeah, but then everyone else in front of them who didn't is definitely going to pit surely, and they're just going to lose that advantage anyway, you would think.
The last pit stop was about 10 laps ago, so there is enough of a hole in the tank that it will create some potential overlap. It's not going to, you know, take away as much. But think about the guys that didn't fill the tank under that last stop, under that first stop. Sorry, I'm thinking Damien Cairns, Jeff Thomas, yeah, effectively those guys. But we're going to get a replay of what happened at Ken Ladder and how he ended up there. We did sort of catch it live, but not from a great angle. And I'll leave you to walk us through this one, Dean.
Yeah, I think it. On the final corner there, they just sort of had the overlap there and got tangled up, but let's wait for Dan to give us the cut. Of course, it's a very tricky job doing the production. He's wearing a lot of hats tonight. He's feeding us information. He's running everything behind the scenes, so not an easy feat, but
work harder, Dan.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking more about he can't defend himself live, so I was going to give him a break, but oh man, but yeah, look at that. So yeah, he's got it now. Here we go. So here's the final 2 corners of the circuit. They're side by side. Ladder, yeah, just
there's neck code in that. There's neck code in that because they were not rubbing.
I thought rubbing on the original feed. It really looked like they were rubbing on the way out of that corner, but yeah, we're getting back to green again. Really short safety car.
Yep, so it's now done and sorted, and they're all committed to their unique strategies. And unfortunately for the guys that stay out, if they can get home, Scott Gamble is going to have to go like the clappers, and he's got a ton of fuel on board. And reminder for Ken Ladder, a championship hopeful, somebody who could have had one hand on this trophy. It could have been raising a V8 Veterans Championship like he nearly did back at the start of the year from Mugello before the post-race celebrations happened too early. That's the difference between Ken Ladder being a champion at the start of the season and being in the Logitech Pro Invitational because the golden ticket was in it at that time. And tonight, his season will end early, and it's not been his best season, to be fair, for Ken Ladder. There'll be learning points in that one, but yeah, not the way you want to finish.
No, definitely not. From the highs of winning last week to the lows of not finishing this week, I imagine he's pretty disappointed. But meanwhile, we've got a race on our hands. It's back on for P1 and P2. Damien Cairns looking to size up our race leader, Scotty Gamble, and Sean McNamara making his way through the field even further. I think he's just copped a little tap in the rear there. He's a little bit unstable or just lost it on his own, but he's all the way back up to P19, of course, showing he's lost 16 spots because he did drop out earlier, but at one point of the race, he was dead last and out of the server.
And Tim Nicol, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is the first driver in the queue, and he sits 21st to have done 2 compulsory pit stops and be just shy of the window to get home. Came in at the end of lap number 32. Went out on lap number 33. We went with green flag racing, at the end of 34 to 35 onwards. You can do that. That's a lot of saving. Don't get me wrong, it is a fair bit of saving, but you can absolutely do that. That is doable.
Yeah, it's going to take a monumental effort to save that fuel, but as long as he can keep within the draft of whoever's in front of him at the time.
Oh, let's go around. Let's go around.
Stuart Hall around a turn at Dandenong Road, and he copped a bit of contact on the way out too.
And he's managed to get that one back alive, and Hallel says it was the driver who made contact with Ken Latter a couple laps ago. And now finds himself out in the weeds, but he's rescued that one. So for Stewie Hall, there's contact on the front end of that car, and now I think that's Chad Lewis lining him up to have a go. Indeed it is. Chad Lewis has taken his fast repair, and there's still damage. Maybe he hasn't actually taken the fast repair. Looks like there's more damage to the front right-hand corner of the 727 machine. Which, by the way, this livery, a throwback to some of the earliest days of the Evolution Racing team. You can see from Chad Lewis, and was the first livery in the sim to carry officially licensed Red Bull logos with approval from head office, as Tim Nicol bowls are wide as they get down to turn number 4.
Yeah, that's a good fact. Yeah, interesting stuff. You're always a wealth of knowledge there, Scotty. But yeah, Chad Lewis, nice looking livery for him. But in front, having a look at Jeff Thomas up ahead here. He's got his webcam on apparently. We're probably about to see that shortly. Here he is, showing us a view from behind his seat with a nice little, almost purpose-built V8 supercar set up with his shifter there. So taking a chilled sort of approach on the run down to turn 1, nice and relaxed. You like to see it up in P4. You got to keep that that heart rate low and the nerves down, and of course. The more adrenaline that you got going, the harder you grip that wheel, the harder it is to control the car, and you really got to sort of ride the waves of the V8 supercar, which he seems to be doing quite well.
One of the things I have to constantly work on, I'm telling you this, Dean, I constantly have to work on it, is white knuckling. I am very much up on the wheel, and I've got to be gripping the thing some days. When I'm driving my best, I'm absolutely not. So, but yeah, I would not be gripping a supercar wheel that lightly and that relaxed. So. Anyway.
Yeah, big time. Big time. Meanwhile, Alil Cesar has got that black flag there for turning Ken Latter, so that'll be his night going from bad to worse. He wasn't too far up the field, of course, because Ken Latter dropped all the way back, but yeah, serving it. I think he's already served his drive-through and he's back on ready to go, but disappointing for him, of course. In the, is that the green-eyed monster style livery? I think it is probably the best V8 supercar to ever grace my eyes was the green-eyed monster, but a nice take on it there from Halou and the team Cesar Motorsports, aptly named after himself, I'm presuming.
I was about to say, I think you're a man of great taste, because I agree with everything you just said about the car.
Yeah, and the way he's driving at the moment probably is handling a bit more like a 90 supercar than what we might see. Just getting a bit squirrely out of the final corner there, but lots of people make jokes about the AU Falcon, but it's my partner, my missus, her first car was an AU Falcon Ute, and it's still going to this day. It's got like 380,000 kilometres on it or something, so it's still going strong.
It probably belongs out there on track in the Veterans League at this point in time. But Michael Whiting's managed to make his way through the field, now sits 7th. Remember the question mark hanging over him for the tail end of the race. As for Blake Delaney, 5th on the road. Jeff Thomas, though, sits just ahead of him. And I'll tell you what, Blake Delaney's already massively on the clutch. There always are over at the Fishy Motorsports outfit. They are looking to save every skerrick of fuel they possibly can. But this strategy is really, really interesting now, because Tim Nicol's caught up to Greg Sharp and Gary Buckland, and Buckland's holding off Greg Sharp inside the top 20 as it currently stands. And this has effectively got the drivers who have made what could be their final pit stop of the season in it. Tim Nicol, Chad Lewis sits 2nd in this group, and Bo Noble sits 3rd.
This is the Master Stroke group, or the it's the I guess it's the Rip Terror Bus group. There, you're going to go leave it all on the track, see if you can get all the way to the end, and yeah, big lift and coast there from Sharpie in front, and Tim Nicol nearly ran right into the back of there, perhaps caught off guard a little bit. But yeah, I think look at the gap in front is quite interesting. They're losing the group in front of them, of course, because they're fuel saving. But I don't think Tim Nicol is a part of that strategy. He wants to get past Greg Sharp, I think, at the moment, and get his race back on track.
Thinking, what about Chad Lewis? Is he saving? Doble? Why are none of these guys saving? Is it they've just thrown it out the window and gone, oh, it's too much? Because you get any safety car, you make it.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps they're not as prepared as what we have been in the broadcast with the numbers. Not sure if they can get to the end until the crew chief or the iRacing spotter or whatever you got going tells you, hey, you're not going to get to the end, you'll need to stop it with 5 laps to go or something. Perhaps they're unaware, but there's so many things going on while you're driving the car. It's hard to work out your fuel strategy at 220 kilometers an hour. So, I mean, yeah, it's a tricky task for them.
Darren Crosby losing a spot to Sean McNamara back at turn 1. Was there contact? Doesn't look like there was contact, just Crosby running a little bit wide. Perhaps McNamara's in there a touch too deep. Either way, McNamara's cut his way through and now sits 15th on the road. Interesting. There's a big spin down at turn number 1, and Blake Delaney's gone around, and Jeff Thomas is involved in it as well.
Wonder how that's happened. We look away for 1 second. Oh, Blake Delaney cutting across.
Has he got damage
there.
to the front left?
Yeah, he might do. I'll have a quick look and see. No meatballs. Oh, he just got the whack to the back. Now he's got damage.
Oh no! Oh, the track's just about jammed. How have they all got out the other side yet again? Is that Jeff Thomas just about in it once more? We're going to have another look, and now definitely Blake Delaney's got damage.
Jeff Thomas, meatball, yeah.
So, my word, what has triggered all of this? And it's going to start down at turn 1, like you said there, Dean, as well, with something's going on there. A host of drivers have managed to cut their way through, and this is going to change the fuel strategy as well. So it's already happened, but you can see Delaney's struggling to turn the car to the right. It's got no turn. Yeah, pulls out late, and that's a send. Oh. That is a big send.
Yeah, he just got caught up on that curb big time. Full rallycross, out of control, I think, a little bit. A bit too far back. Here's probably a better angle to see. Yeah, he's just outbraked himself. He was not going to make that corner and just whacked into the side. Jeff Thomas.
Up until the point he plucked the curb.
Yeah.
At that point in time, that's where he wasn't making the corner. But anyway.
And then it gets worse.
I'm wondering whether or not he's trying
redressing here. Yeah. Redressing, perhaps. I don't. He's cutting the curb to get out everyone's way, cutting the corner to get everyone's way, and then somehow
just cost a whack.
Yeah, completely different incident. Jeff
Thomas.
Hang on,
the 302 is Brad Doble. The 302 is Brad Doble. I think he's the car that's come up the back of Delaney. Yep, there it is.
Oh, yeah. And then whack a third incident. There is a lot going on in that little piece of track there, Scotty. I don't want to be in the race control seat right now, I'll just say that.
It's already happened. Everything else has happened up ahead. Jeff Thomas is trying to feed back in. Flavel will have no overlap there. It's probably going to be triggered on Flavel. So Gary Buckland goes around and
Chad Lewis at turn 3 as well.
Well, Chad Lewis was, remember, one of those first front few cars on strategy, and something's just happened to Travis Hunt as well.
Yeah, just got a little bump in the rear on the way out of turn 4 there, and separate incident here with Travis Hunt. See what happens here. Trying to get around that initial one, create some overlap. Car in front. Outside of turn 6, not where you want to be.
Oh!
No.
Gets the bump, gets forced off the road, and that will be a bump and run. That'll probably just be a redress, and they'll leave that one alone. It was Christian Smart who made contact. Who was the car just in front of Smart here as well? 49 Stu Hall. Yeah, I thought it might have been. There's a couple of red and white cars out there tonight, and that's, I'm pretty sure both of them on track next to each other. So, okay, final race of the season. P's and Q's not being minded.
Hey, we'll leave it all out on the track. Why not? No tomorrow. Until next season. The penalties carry over. Post-race penalties carry over next season. Last 6 points also.
They do actually indeed. So
there
10
is
races,
tomorrow.
10 races they carry for. Yeah. So Michael Whiting makes his way through to 5th. This has changed a few of the bits and pieces of the order up. We now need to rescue, who's the lead driver on strategy? I think it is still Tim Nicol, and he's driven through to 17th spot at this point in time. But the problem is, to make it that far on fuel, he would have had to have been saving from the drop of the green flag. So he is going to have to come back in for another stop, but it's going to be a splash and dash.
Yeah, definitely. Shaking up like... Interesting why there is no fuel save under that strategy. It's going to be tight even with the fuel save, so puzzling stuff. But somehow out of all that, we didn't get our third safety car. Everyone got going again. On board here with Dean Flavel. The stress level is on the limiter. 108 BPM at the moment.
Somebody
burning
telling
1,100 calories.
He's supposed to pluck 5th gear when you're on the limiter. But for Dino, there is no 5th gear, there is no 6th gear. He's run out. At the moment, such is the stress level.
How does he measure that? That's what I want to know.
No idea. No idea. I'm assuming that the heart rate monitor would take an average. There we go. Yeah, he's okay. But that's definitely high. Normally he sits around about 95 to 100 beats per minute. It's definitely a fair bit higher than that. And there has been a fair bit of stress for Dean over the last sort of 5 laps or so. So it does make sense that the heart rate's up a little bit. And commentating compatriot David Haynes likes to measure it in how many zinger boxes can you get down. I think it's 1,200 calories per zinger box.
Oh, stop it, you make me hungry. I've already had dinner and you're still making me hungry. Talking about
this with the chubby buns, yeah.
Yeah, chubby buns earlier. We were saying, I don't know why I feel hungry now, but now KFC, and it's gonna make me fitting in my sim rig a lot more difficult when I can get back in it next.
So according to Fat Secret, Australia, it's 1,119 calories to a zinger box.
I know what he's having for a post-race meal then.
We've cleared that margin now. And Helen says it's just on the radio about something else, and something else has just happened, unfortunately, to him. Drivers are on the move, though. And I'm going to talk about one of your teammates at this point in time. Actually, I'm going to talk about both of your teammates at this point in time. Started out at 27th for Robert Crisdale, sits 7th, plus 20. Mark Poynton, plus 18. Started out at 26, sits 8. So your boys are on the road line astern as it currently stands.
Yeah, a lot better than they're showing out in Scops on the weekend. And I was letting them know all about it in the Discord after. I was very disappointed I didn't get to call much of their racing, but yeah, Rob Crisdale crawled his way up to P7. That is mostly due to his 18-second pit stop, so he is significantly under fuel. I think he's probably got the least fuel on board compared to every single car on the field. Could be a master stroke from him, or could end up pear-shaped. And his teammate, and my teammate, Mark Poynton, in that Mark Larkham Falcon livery, absolutely beautiful stuff. Great painting from Braden there. But here's a comparison on the pit times.
The pit lane transit times. Remember, you need to add about 51 seconds worth of fuel to get home. We've lost probably 3 or 4 laps worth of that under safety car. It should be more than that. It'd be probably about 6 laps worth of that fuel has been eliminated due to safety car periods throughout the duration here tonight, and Dan's going to throw me a number in a minute of how much time that would be lost. I think it's going to be around a 43 second. I'm going to guess at 43 seconds now in terms of pit lane fuel that need to be added. So Gamble's only got about 5 to 10 seconds worth of fuel that he'll need to add. Crisdale, in the meantime, is in the realm of about 30 seconds worth of fuel that he'll have to add. So just shy of 30 seconds, and Mark Poynton's going to be about 22, 23. So that'll tell you enough story. And we've got an update on Buckland. No, sorry, 999 it was. Yeah, so remember the incident from a while ago about Travis Hunt, the bump and run, has now been sorted.
You called that one. Redress was probably the right play there. Not too much time lost for me, the driver. So definitely the right call for race control, if you ask me, which no one did. But you love to see the redress. Thanks, Scott. Now that you've asked, I think the redress is definitely the preferential penalty that can be given, because of course you don't lose any time, and as a viewer you just get to keep watching the racing and watching that position potentially be exchanged again, maybe more cleanly this time. Maybe it won't be too. We'll see what happens.
What are your thoughts on team orders though? And I'm not referencing supercars here.
Boo. Team orders, boo.
Yeah.
We saw two teammates crash into each other for the lead at Scott Supports on Friday night, and that was pretty entertaining. But I know for a fact that, from my experience, that I'm normally the one who says, hey man, if you're faster than me, just let me know, I'll get out your way. But I think for now, most of the teammates are just, I've seen previously in the V8s, in any league, they just sort of race each other or help each other out as best they can, but we don't normally see their positions swapping.
Crisdale in. I was going to say I didn't think he'd have much more fuel left in that tank, so I didn't expect him too far away from jumping in. And by the way, we have one more retirement to add to the list as well. Halos Cesar has now ended season number 20 of the RaceKraft Veterans. Yeah, RaceKraft V8 Veterans. He's now done as he retires from the race as well.
Disappointing for him, of course. Not how you want to finish the season, not crossing the line, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But speaking of pitting and fuel stopping and stuff, Damien Cairns was one of those drivers that did not quite the same extent as Rob Crisdale, about 10 seconds of fuel difference between those two. But yeah, he underfueled significantly to get track position behind Scott Gamble. But Luke Rundell just keeping on the back of him, and Damien Cairns is losing Scott Gamble over time, now 2.5 seconds behind. So even with the full tank and cold tyres, Gamble pulled away.
Interesting to note as well, something I'll just put in the back of your mind, is remember we said about 17 seconds through the transit lane for Rob Crisdale, sorry, 17 seconds stopped in the stall for Crisdale. He took 33 seconds of fuel. Now our numbers from the start of the race were about 51 seconds in terms of what he's going to have to add across the two stops with some saving, He added 50 seconds of fuel there. So they haven't saved as much as I necessarily thought they would have. So maybe 5 seconds, 8 to 48. So that's what's worthwhile keeping in the back of your mind. So we'll aim for anywhere from probably about 47 litres worth of fuel, or 47 seconds worth of fuel is what you're going to have to add across the two pit stops. That sort of gives us some wiggle room. I can be just 1 or 2 seconds wrong either side and be about accurate.
Close enough. Everyone will forget what you're talking about by the time the race is coming to an end and everyone's scrapping over position anyway.
That's where I make my money, Dean. That's where I make my money.
Yeah. I'll tell you, maths isn't my strong suit, so I'll leave that all to you. I'll just call what's happening in front of me. That's about all my brain can handle.
Well, I'm glad that you're at least getting some sleep at the moment. How far away, by the way, for the birth of your first child?
Next Tuesday, booked for the induction. So this is, I said to the missus when I was trying to convince her to let me do it tonight, it's my last chance before we have the baby. Let me have a go. And she's like, yeah, you don't have to ask my permission. I like to act like she's the old ball and chain, but she's fantastic. So lets me live out my childhood dreams of commentating. So thanks, babe. Righto,
so as the race starts to run into its final third, as we've now about crossed into, so it was 27 is about what we were looking at in terms of the race distance. That will be lap number 54, which is next time by. So if you're thinking about splitting the race down to thirds, we haven't had a race split really into thirds, but for the drivers who pit all the way back at the end of lap number 22 under that first safety car, I would be thinking their tyres are probably a little bit second-hand. It might be worth the stop any time now. For Tim Nicol, though, progress through the field, he's going to have such a short pit stop at the end of this race, given that we're only about 4 or 5 laps short in terms of things. Enough time to maybe slap a set of tyres. I think he's going to be static for longer than the tyres will take.
Yeah, perhaps the rears only, maybe, just to get...
it's all 4 at the same time.
Oh, it's all 4 at the same time.
Yeah.
Goes to show how much I know what I'm talking about.
I learned that through commentating, not by practicing and testing. So, yeah, I did the same. Don't worry.
Someone else told you at some point.
Yeah, I was fed the information. It's critical because it's this battle pack that sort of contains most of the front runners in terms of that strategy. Travis Hunt sits second on the road of the drivers who have taken their second of their compulsory pit stops. But Tim Nicol is the driver that leads the way in 14th on this strategy. Christian Smart, though, now sits third on the road in terms of the other strategy.
Yeah, it's a race within the race itself, isn't it? I think these guys just maybe sitting on a master stroke. I was about to say something probably more intelligent than that.
It depends. Intelligent in my mouth aren't something that go together. I like to think it happens far more often than not. Scott Gamble's actually starting to catch on to lap traffic. It's lap traffic that's just recently pit, so this is actually kind of important, and it's a battle for position at this point in time for Rob Crisdale and Scotty Van Loon. There's contact, and I tell you what, this is just ahead of our race leader at this point in time, so this is actually really, really important to sort of keep an eye on. That is Gamble right there. So these guys have got blue flags, but they're also in a scrap for position, and Van Loon's just going to get out of the way. And now Crisdale, how well is he going to do the same? Because this will affect... He does not want to be behind the race leader should a safety car be called.
He does not. And if I know Rob, which I do, he is very stubborn and we're trying to give up the least possible time to let Scott Gamble through. Potentially he'll move out the way at the end of the straightaway here or not. I'm not sure what the blue flag rules are, but there he goes, locks up. And now he's almost holding up Gamble, but just gets out the way in time and didn't really gain that much of an advantage on Scotty Van Loon behind him for that delay of sort of blue flags, but he keeps that position for now.
Well, the critical factor I was going to talk about is potentially the tyre fall off. Gamble's most recent lap, 107.480, and when you look at his fastest laps of the day, 106.634, so he's only fallen off 0.8 of a second or so across when he pit all the way back at the end of lap 23. So he's now been out there on tyres for 30 laps. He's only fallen off about 0.8 of a second.
I will say that is very impressive. Great stuff. He's got that number 1 on the door for a reason and leading the championship. Somehow Luke Rundell hasn't been able to find a way past Damien Cairns. Cairnsy probably looking at coming in pretty soon for that final stop, being under fueled compared to those around him. Took 9 seconds less fuel than Grundell, but the lap time's not really showing out at the moment. Maybe Grundell just saving a little bit of juice behind him, kind of sitting pretty happy knowing that once Cairns pits, he'll just inherit that P2, barring any sort of issues.
Maybe he's the driver that's, of a lot of them, that's starting to try and save some fuel. Michael Whiting's driven all the way up to the rear bumper now, and Michael Taliancic as well for 4th on the road. So that's another battle that's going to potentially decide itself. And in terms of pit lanes, they're about even in terms of transit time. Mike Poynton now sits 7th on the road as well. There's a ton of cars out of sequence here, and that's what we've got to remember at this juncture, is that the field is just about completely contaminated in terms of where everyone is on strategy. We can't tell until we get there.
Yeah, it'll all unfold in the big grand reveal with about 30 odd laps to go, I reckon, or 20 odd laps to go. Already past 30 laps to go.
Stay tuned for another 20 laps time when we give the Block V8 veterans the grand reveal.
Yeah, the grand reveal, season finale, the grand reveal, it's all happening. But Michael Whiting at the moment up into 5th position. I mean, he, I think, underfueled from memory a little bit as well. So when you talk about the field being tainted a little bit, he is probably up a few spots than what he normally should be. No, he's 36 seconds, I think. So he's on the money. So yeah, he's just sort of moving up slowly, making sure that he can do everything in his power to take the championship off Scott Gamble and leaving the rest up to him.
Yeah, and that's the big key, really, isn't it? Is it's not about do everything; it's do everything you can. And when you haven't necessarily got pace, strategy's the next bar that everyone goes to try and tinker with. And when you haven't got strategy, you haven't got track position, you haven't got pace, well, really, you're in a heap. So, at this point in time, doing reasonably well. And 61 laps is one of the critical junctures. If Scott Gamble makes it to the end of lap 61, he must finish 34th or worse, and I believe Whiting must win.
That's an equation, and it's a pretty hard one to make a mare of at the moment for Gamble.
If Gamble DNFs, effectively, I think it's... sorry, we might have the numbers the wrong way around. I think it was if Gamble DNFs and fails to score a point or points, Michael Whiting has to finish 34th or better, and he will win. Must be classified. My apologies. Must be classified. So it comes down to classification. So effectively, the championship doesn't go to lap 81. It goes for Scott Gamble making lap 61. So at this point in time, if Gamble is classified 34th or better, he will win. We're 2 laps away from that. So we're rejigging the numbers again. And there are only 36 cars running at this point in time. So only has to beat 2 cars, and it's a guarantee.
Well, there's an equation for you, ladies and gentlemen at home. Sounds pretty basic now that Scotty's put it that way, I think. But I think we're going to start seeing those, 30, the shorter of the longer stops, if you will, come in. We've seen, I think, Poynton's come in, or a few guys coming in now. You can see them in the order, but a few guys coming in for that final stop at the moment with 21 laps to go. So getting some fresh boots on the run to the end.
Tim Nichols in and out. Tim Nichols in and out, by the way. He did actually come back to the pit lane. And he's popped out behind Randell and Stephen Varga. So Stephen Varga only pit about 3 laps ago, and he's going to slide down the inside of the run into turn number 1. Very, very deep, bowls a wide now down at turn 1. Randell gets checked up, and Nichols going to pull alongside. It all gets just a little bit interesting at this point in time. This is outside 20th spot, and there are a bunch of cars on the road ahead of these guys that have not made their final stop, and that's the big old key.
Yeah, big time. This is sort of net positions until everyone else pits and makes it a gross position, and we jump up a few spots. But Michael Stewart's just jumped into the lane as well, so he'll be losing that 7th spot and probably drop a fair way down the order for now and pop back up again in a few laps' time once everyone else comes in. But big lock up there in front for the OPR car. But big time plays coming up. I think we're going to see.
Randall, there's a few cars in this that are starting to lock up. Hypersonic Racer of Murray Reale is just up ahead of these guys, not flying into the lane. Randall dives into the lane just off the nose of Tim Nicholl. One of the problems of racing this track. Somebody else is just rejoining just up ahead. That'll be Michael, who's coming back out. So there'll be 3 wide on the run down at turn number 1 as strategy starts to come into it. And Stewart was one of the drivers who actually didn't pit, I don't think, under that previous caution. Big lock up, burn through the front tyres, and now Stewart's trying to feed his way back in, but he's trying to look after his teammate Reale just ahead, still yet to pit. His last stop was under the most recent safety car period. And again, it's all just getting a little bit aggressive on track. And for Tim Nicholl, he's actually lost out because of all of this, because of the extra traffic in the way. So it's not worked out for Tim.
Yeah, and that's disappointing for him because I think he come out of the pits right at the wrong spot of the track, bouncing across the curbs there. Michael Stewart got it under control on the way to Dandenong Road there, but tricky section of the track. Brad Doble in now as well. We're sort of starting to see everyone blink for their final pit stop, but Tim Nicholl really got to get past these guys. I think they're going too wide behind as well. He's got to get past Michael Stewart now and get this race back underway for himself.
Be interesting to see where Doble feeds back out, because he was in a really interesting spot. So he's going to be behind Sharp, I think. And he's actually going to be very, very close to going a lap now, because Scott Gamble's come out of that last corner. So there's more lapped traffic drama for Gamble. You know, the best thing to do and the smartest thing to do in terms of your overall race pace and overall strategy is to stay up. And if I'm in Scott Gamble's shoes right now, I want to get away from the lap traffic. That's the one thing that can sort of take this and take it away.
Yep, and these guys are all fighting over these positions in front, and he can probably just see that out ahead. So if he does catch up to them, it'll be a similar situation to what we saw before, where he's trying to pass two cars fighting over a position, which is not ideal. So yeah, if I'm Scott Gamble, I'm probably coming into the lane pretty much ASAP, probably on the next lap. But don't know what sort of numbers he's drawn up previously, and where he's looking for the what sort of tyre life he wants towards the end of the race.
Stewie Hall now feeds into the lane, and I think probably the best way to go is probably the drivers that have made more than 2 or more stops is probably going to tell the story of the drivers that have made their final stop and the drivers that haven't. And I'm seeing a bunch of brake lockups at this point in time as everyone's pushing extremely hard later in, and Gamble's going to pop in, which, yeah, look, all you need to do is finish. All you need to do is finish reasonably, and it's yours. So just take that off the table. You know, it's done now.
So I guess, yeah. So Kirby and Whiting as well following him into the lane, so pushing in for those 3 guys. But 75% of the race is now complete, so those who have made it past this lap will be classified, depending on where they finish, of course. But now Scott Gamble's got to have an absolute stinker somehow. I think it's pretty much out of the equation now for him to lose his championship.
Just having a look as well, Ken Ladder's actually back out on track, and he's going to actually try and finish the race. So it's the car repaired, and what is it, lap 61, so needs to stay less than 20 laps down, and he is 6 laps down, so he will be classified should he make it to the tail end of the race.
Big crew virtually working very hard there to get that car back on track, but man, have a look at that fishy livery, the Castrol style there, absolutely beautiful. But there we go, Scott Gamble up into P2 after making his stop, and yeah, once Taliancic comes in for a final time, of course, he'll get back into that lead of the race. And Travis Hunt out of sequence, I'm being told, so he would have taken a monumental run to get up into that spot, but he's still yet to make his second compulsory pit stop.
Remember, he's going to have a short stop to the end as well, because he pit back at the end of lap 32 at his last lap. He pit on, so he's been out there for 32 and a half laps at this point in time. There's onto the back straight once more. See, I'm just looking at Christian Smart. So the drivers left to pit: Taliancic, Travis Hunt, Christian Smart, Chad Lewis, Dan Hall, although question mark over whether or not they might have been able to save enough fuel to get themselves home. Blake Delaney still hasn't made his final stop either. Stephen Kennedy, Jason Fewens, and I think that might be it. Jamie McKnight, sorry, no, Jamie McKnight is the final driver, 15th, that hasn't made his final stop.
Yeah, I did see just then Poynton and Crosby getting a little bit all over each other, but Crosby just holding off Poynton there for a little bit, and then behind them, of course, that's the Scott McCune in the 77 there, ready to pick up the piece if that all goes astray. But for a moment there, they were throwing it at each other pretty hard.
We don't talk about the number 77. I think it might be because, you know what, I figured it out. I think I've finally figured out what causes the bad luck. It's a lucky number is 777, right? 7 is lucky, 777 is lucky, 77 is just not. So we don't talk about Scott McCune, ever.
Yeah.
Oh,
Vicky
the last
swim.
time we did this, as the zoom camera went up, he died. So
Got motion rig as well. It's pretty awesome. Yep. Either that or it's a really rickety seat.
I try to avoid this as long as I possibly can, but they've done it to me, boys. So Scott McCune, should death eventuate, I tried.
Right now. Did all you could, Scotty.
The final 15 laps or so of the season 20 of V8 Veterans, and it comes down to this. How about the battle on track between these two as well? Because McCune and Poynton, nothing much separates them, and McCune's going to show the nose to the inside. Doesn't quite get far enough up, so these guys are still scrapping for everything. More pit stops come in. Fewens is in. Delaney's now in for his final stop of the race as well. The stop of the season. And now it's the rundown of the checkered flag. Sean McNamara, after having been 2 laps down, sits 12th, by the way, and there's probably a couple more cars that he might overtake on strategy yet, so he might scrap away with it to the top 2. In fact, Stephen Kennedy has a pit, yeah, and I reckon Travis Hunt's going to pop out behind him, so Sean McNamara is on for a top 10 after driving through from 38th, I think he was at one point.
Did someone say driver of the day? That's a fantastic effort from Sean Mack, and huge clawback all the way up at P12 again. That's amazing stuff from him. Sizing up at the moment, David Kirby in front. Sorry, Stephen Kennedy in front, David Kirby. No, it is David Kirby. Stephen Kennedy just jumped in the lane, I think, so jumping around the timing there.
So Stephen Kennedy dives to the pit lane and gets his final stop of the race out of the way. And then there were only a couple left to make their stop. And for Tim Nicol, you remember when he went down their strategy path, he was sitting, what, 5th on the road or so? He was deep inside the top 10. And it has just not worked out his way. So either way for Tim Nicol, on track at the moment, and inside a battle pack that includes Jamie Knight at the head of this one, who's still yet to make his final stop as well. So it'll be a battle pack between himself, as Tim Nicol, Stephen Varga, and Michael Stewart to the end of the race. And Varga gets down to the inside, and Jamie Knight will not quite get that move done. And Jamie's starting to become a cork on the bottle for these guys. You can see Varga's got fresh rubber and absolutely wants to do something with it. I wonder, Jamie McKnight come back down and top this car back up at the end of lap 33. I wonder if he's not trying to make the end of the race.
Yeah, that's a big call there on the strategy. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, because yeah, being a cork in the bottle sometimes means you're just trying to save some fuel. But watch for the early lift here. Yeah, did he lift early? Not really. Minimal save maybe, but yeah. You'll have to save, I think, a bit more than that to get the end. Perhaps on the run into Dandenong Road's probably a better spot because you're not compromised on the overtake as what you might be on turn 1. But
okay. I'll change my vote for driver of the day. If Jamie McKnight finishes in 12th position, driver of the day, 12th position or better for on a 200 start, driver of the day. Absolutely deserves it. Which Sean Mack will feel hard done by, but when you do a drive like that on your 200 start, gets you a little bit of extra recognition.
Yeah, and I think Tally Enchich into the pits now as well from the front of the field.
So, 35. By the way, there's been drama. You just called Tally Enchich who's into the pit. Tally Enchich is now in the barriers. Down in between turn 2 and turn 3, and he's trying to find someone to safely rejoin. Christian Smart's coming, does manage to get out of the way. So Tally lost it all on his own. That was unassisted.
He was unassisted. He came out right next to Travis Hunt and tried to make the move on him. He's calling into race control at the moment.
That's Jamie McKnight.
Oh, apologies.
Oh, Tim Nicol just about made contact with Michael Stewart. I think they did make contact as they come off of turn 4. And a few replays to have a look at, and it's getting a little bit snippy deeper in the field. So this is what happened for Tally. Lost it on his own. And this is going to tell us what happened down at turn number 1. Well, Vargas made a complaint that there's potentially moving under brakes, and look, he does narrow him up. I don't know if it will be moving under brakes because there's a different set of regulations when you're looking at that. Yeah, you know what? He's got a case.
But the question is, was he going to make the corner anyway? That's the question I think race control's going to look at. But there's a very small jink there, but definitely something under brakes.
Yeah, and now look at everyone that's starting to swarm up and around, and there's more contact inside by side as they go through turn 2 and turn 3, and it's Michael Stewart, Tim Nicol. Nichol's going to go the wrong way round out of turn 4, and finally Michael Stewart's going to come away with that spot. Mark Boynton, your boy, starts to line him up here, Dino, and have a crack. He will get a little bit of a draft, and Michael Stewart's going to make them race each other on the run up the hill to turn 6. Boynton's got the inside, but that doesn't necessarily constitute a move done, and Nicol tries to go and bounce all over the curbs. Coyton covers him. Does he cop a whack? Nicol's out of line, out of shape, and out of space, and out of position, and around goes another car in the background. Was that Stephen Kennedy? I think it might have been. No, it wasn't. Darren Crosby.
Yeah, that's just a case of everyone tripping over each other. They're running so close together. One little mistake at the front can easily cause a ripple effect at the back, and Mark Boynton just picking up the pieces at turn 4 there, and then yeah, everyone else just falling in behind at Dandenong Road after that little issue.
And Crosby's obviously unhappy, so there'll be race control having a look at that one. And we're under 10 to go, I think, in the season now. So, and you can just see how much McKnight is just fighting to keep this car on the road at this point. I think he's going to go to the end. You know, I think he's absolutely going to have a crack at trying to go to the end.
I mean, if you got the fuel, you may as well try it. I mean, he's going to get past here, I think, on the outside of turn 6, but you may as well give it a shot.
But if he's going to try and go to the end and he has to save fuel, he needs to lift early. Why fight that all the way to the apex? Unless he's good on fuel.
He must be good on fuel, surely.
So it's going to be tight. He's going to take it to the line, but he is going to challenge for it. Slips back to 16th now. So, yeah, now I think it's probably a little bit too far. And for sure, McNamara, I think inside the top 10 now as well. And we'll keep an eye on.
And fastest lap.
Yep, fastest lap as well to go along with it. So, fuel saving. There is just a touch of saving from Jamie McKnight, but it's not a lot.
And he's been around long enough to know what he's doing. I'm sure he's got it all under control under there, and we'll find out, I think, on the last lap whether he saved enough fuel or not. But you know, Damien Cairns dropping back to P6 after making his final stop. So proving that getting that track position sorted early on has sort of done him a few favours. He's up 3 spots, so he jumped Christian Smart and David Kirby, I guess, in theory, on the order, and just sort of pulling away a little bit from them now. Especially if Smart and Kirby start scrapping over that P7, which Kirby lining up Christian Smart on the way into turn 1. Here he goes down the inside. I think he's already got it done before they even have to turn it in.
Yeah, so jumped on. By the way, Chad Lewis is actually going to go. I think Jamie McKnight just said, I'm pitting this lap. So I think he's actually just given up the ghost, and indeed he had. He's now into the pit lane. Chad Lewis just did a big old lift down into turn 1 and let Sean McNamara by. I think Chad Lewis is going to try and go to the end of the race, and Dan Hall's going with him. I think they're both going to have a crack at this, and if they do, the back end of the top 10, 41 laps currently on the stint is what that number underneath signifies.
And if you can't tell by the number on the screen, there's the debris on the windscreen that you don't get pulled off when you start. Oh, a little bit of a compression lock up there from Lewis. Almost lost it.
I wonder how much, whether or not Dan Hall in behind him has actually saved a lot more fuel than he has, because he's got more pace at the moment.
Did someone say team orders?
So both of them are saving fuel, and Dan is just going, all right, you're leading the way, thank you very much. That's an extra few milliliters of fuel a lap, and I can burn that on the last lap. So if you can kindly just continue to lead the way, that will help my night out significantly. And Chad's trying to respond by saying, no, sir, please, after you. Final stages. Christian Smart's going to go the long. Christian Smart's going to make this as well. Because look at the pace that Sean McNamara just took out of him. So here's another car that's trying to do it from lap 33. This is. Oh, that safety car was right at the right time. If that safety car had been 2 laps later, the whole field would have come in.
You saw the difference on the lap time there. For McNamara, Hunt, Travis Hunt, that is, coming into the lane now. Quick splash and dash for him, 9.7 seconds in the lane. Here we go, 269, making a move before turn 1. Is that team orders, perhaps?
269's Ken Latta, who's out of the race. Oh no, Scott McCune. No, it has happened. Scott McCune's just been given a drive-through penalty. I blame you, Dean.
I'm sorry.
Why? We were doing so well. We hadn't mentioned him.
To be fair, you didn't tell me before the race.
Yeah. It's more funny when you tell people midway through.
Oh, by the way.
There's a bus that I know that you love to be a fan of, and as Mez has been the victim of, you have now been victimized by the front end of the you can't park their bus.
Yeah, I mean, it's just laying under the front end of it at the moment, I suppose.
Oh, so at this point in time, Dan Hall and Chad Lewis were just looking at the lap times. They're losing about 1.5, 1.8, 2 seconds a lap, somewhere in that realm, trying to fuel save home. They're not going to make it. Surely they don't make it from here.
No way. That is a huge fuel save, and yeah, at a certain point, it's probably too late to realise that now, but it probably would have been quicker with 5 laps to go just to get that final stop in, and they're changing positions now, so Chad Lewis probably the worser of the two, looking to get some assistance from Dan in front with the tow, or maybe they've just decided to split the last few laps. You go first for a few and then I'll go first for a few.
I think that was just communicated. I've got a lot more fuel than you, and Chad's gone, oh, I'm in trouble. Chad's going to have to pit. He doesn't make the line. I think Dan's potentially going to make the line, and there's more Biffin, but it's not over yet. Jason Fewens is making contact all the way down the back straight away. Is that Stewie Hall?
There we go.
Oh, how did they both get out the other way? It is Stewie Hall. And none of them have ended up off the racetrack. Are you kidding me?
Some fantastic car control there from both drivers. Jeff Thomas in behind there as well, picking up the pieces, and that is the eye of the tiger there, Jason Fewens. He's in the zone. Nice little background too on the zoom.
He is always, he looks very similar the whole night long, but he pulls a grimace. I don't know how he does it. He must have mutton chops of steel at this point. The muscles around the jawline, it's just chiseled because he's constantly gritting his teeth.
Get him a mouth guard. You got to look after the chompers, especially once you get to V8 veterans age. No offense.
Wonder how many drivers in the field have fake teeth at this point. Yeah, even discussed. And Chad Lewis now picks himself up a slowdown as he runs over curb down through the S's and loses all. But well, you know, one way to save fuel, and somebody's trying to slice down the inside. I think that might have been Travis Sandown. No, it is Travis Sandown.
Darren Crosby and Rob Christo have made contact as well, both drivers off the circuit.
Oh, Nichols in the fence! Oh, Chad Lewis is in the fence! Oh, they're both in the fence! It's all over for both of these guys! Tim Nichols in a whole lot of hurt! Well, that's going to be a safety car. They might just let them tow.
You have to, surely.
Oh. This is yellow. If this ends under yellow, Dan Hall's going to hang into a top 10 finish. Well, Tim Nichols towed either way. But, oh boy, there is 2 more laps left to run from season number 20. There's been trials, there've been tribulations, but the driver who has stood atop the pile just about the way throughout the season leads the final race of the season. He only needed to make lap 61. At that point, it became a near mathematical impossibility for him not to win the championship. With 2 more drivers as they finish their seasons, it is now a mathematical impossibility. Robert Chrisdale's made contacts as well late on in the piece. Big contact as they head down. They both go around. And that might have been Dean Favell that skipped on through in behind them as well.
Yeah, I think it might be a slap on the wrist incoming for Chrisdale from race control. That one, I think, Scotty.
Maybe Stephen Varga, by the way, has just, this is a replay. There was a hole out here and Chad's just squeezed him all the way out of the hole. I mean, he's in a fuel hole. He's going to let him go when they get to turn 1. That was just probably not needed.
Very avoidable incident there. I would have had the spotter saying car left and he still moved over. Of course, the overlap wasn't there, but yeah.
He still had to go into the pit lane after all of that. Oh, more contact down at turn 1. Is that Reale? That might have been Michael. Might have been, actually, would have been Murray Reale or Scott McHugh. Never mind. And final lap of season number 20 of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans. He's dominated tonight. It was a few laps early where Luke Grundell led the way. Grundell, at the moment, is going to finish on the podium. But Scott Gamble, it's been try and hold a candle to him. Right. But Christian Smart can't make it. Christian Smart's just dived to the lane on the last lap of the race as well. So he drops out of the top 10. Dan Hall dives back into 8th place. Stephen Varga's going to get him as they get down into turn number 1 as well. It's very, very tight for the back end of the top 10. But Scott Gamble, up to 250 kilometers, half of a Sandown 500. The final corner, the final stretch. He will go back to back and defends his championship title for 9.5 Sim Sports. And again, there's no emotion. The man is just smooth, calm, and collected. This is the battle on track that I was just talking about a few moments ago, because this is a fuel hole battle. And Dan Hall's recovered in terms of the amount of fuel. He's burning more fuel on this lap. He's not saving anywhere near as much. And at the moment, it defends from Varga. Varga gets there. There's a little bit of paint traded in the final kilometre of racing action from the home of horsepower. And Stephen Varga's going to get to 9 if there's enough fuel in the tank. Dan Hall, and we talked to him saving a lot more fuel than his rivals. Out of the final corner to P8 on the board. 48 laps from the final pit stop to get the car home.
And that's about as far as the car was going to go, I think, on that tank. Just past the lane there.
And that's how much fuel Scott Gamble added to the tank. It was just enough to get to turn 1, and that's team boss Sean McNamara now pushing him around, and the smoke signals will begin because it's time to celebrate not only race winner but championship winner as well. Although he's not got enough fuel to burn it down, all the V8 veterans tend to burn it down, including the one that's the least lucky.
Fantastic stuff there. Scott Gamble dominating from start to finish, but we talked about the championship battle that may have unfolded earlier, and Michael Whiting ended up finishing P2, so he did everything he can to try and offset Scott Gamble for the championship, but couldn't quite get it done. But yeah, of course, he's still under investigation for that incident on lap 11, which will be a post-race one, so that's a TBD.
Yeah, so still to be discussed, still to be decided. And that's how they're going to finish on the road. Scott Gamble will be home from Michael Whiting, and that's how they finish in the championship for those 2 drivers as well. P1, P2. Luke Grundell gets a podium in the final race of the season, led a whole bunch of laps early on as well. He's actually also a shout for driver of the day because that's the best he's driven in a very long time for Luke Grundell, and that says that he's got a potential to go harass and be a pest and potentially challenge for a Championship in Season 21. Michael Taliancic will be home in 4th. Damien Cairns, great night at the office for him, home in 5th. Dave Kirby from Sean McNamara back to 7th after being 2 laps down. It won't show it in the record books because he qualified in 3rd spot, but he has had to overtake so many different cars here tonight and overtake them well. Dan Hall saves enough fuel to get home in 8th, the only car on that strategy to make it to the end of the race from Stephen Varga. From Michael Stewart finishes the season with a top 10 performance. Outside the 10, it will be Travis Hunt, who couldn't make the line. Mark Point finishes in 12th spot. Blake Delaney home in 13th. Again, dramas for him throughout the duration. We'll see him finish deeper in the championship, potentially for a 3rd for him. Greg Sharp from Bragg Doble, Stephen Kennedy, Dean Flavel with the dyno home in 17th. Think he's earned that zinger box here tonight. Scotty Van Loon home in 19th and Jason Fewens 20th. Before we start to get close to the lapped cars, by the way, Darren Goosey, Jeff Thomas and Stewie Hall, the final 3 cars home on your lead lap from Darren Crosby, Robert Crisdale, Christian Smart, Robbie Griffiths, Scott McCune, Murray Reale and Shane Randell, your top 30. Those drivers all home 1 lap down. Chad Lewis also 1 lap down from Gary Buckland, and Tim Nicol won't make the end of the race, 2 laps down from Paul Burns. They'll both be classified 34th, 34th. 35th will be Ken Latta, also classified, and your final classified finisher will be Jamie McKnight, who didn't resurface after his final pit stop on his 200 start.
Yeah, that'll be disappointing for him, but still 200 starts, amazing effort. You got to be there for them to count, and a few DNFs towards the back end there for Halil Caesar. Caught that penalty late on and decided to park it up, I think, after some damage. Jim Caparonis caught an early incident, DNFing as well, and Chris Miller caught that first incident we saw and ended up DNFing as well, unfortunately.
Righto, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up all the racing from the racetrack. Time to talk to the boys who got it done in their final race this season. Actually, they're all celebrating, I think, at this point in time, because none of them have thus far made it up to come say hello to us in the booth. I can tell you Ken Latta has actually dropped by the 9-5 garage to say congratulations to Scotty Gamble and congratulations on the title as well. It's all about the sportsmanship here in Veterans as well, and they're certainly on display as it currently stands. And just waiting, because I get the feeling that Grundell would be keen to have a chat to us as well, after I think that's his first split 1 podium, to be honest with you. So driver of the day though, in terms of things, I think there's obviously the biggest ticket at the moment, Dina. I think you're quite happy with it as well. Sean McNamara, that drive back through. Grundell's obviously a podium, very, very big opportunity, but that drive from McNamara is supreme. Yeah,
mate. For Sean McNamara to qualify really well, obviously to start with, drop from the session, it's going to be super frustrating. Get back into the session, get back on track, get his laps back. Everything really had to fall in the right place for him for that to happen, but of course he had to put his car in the right position for that to happen, and we've seen him be successful in many different VAD Supercars leagues. So it's a fantastic pace night as well, the fastest lap too. But it's not only the ability of the driver to get that car around the circuit, but also the mental strength to come back from such a disappointing start where he's been disconnected. It's 2 weeks in a row from what I know. He would have been fuming, but got back in the car, leveled his head, and still came away with P7 out of all that somehow.
Yeah, so that absolutely deserving of Chubby Bunsberger's drivers of the day, and we'll start from the bottom steps of the podium at the moment that we have open to us, because I can tell you Michael Whiting has just stopped by our green room. We don't have Luke Grundell as it currently stands, so we'll take to P number 2. It's the boss man over at the outfit of Fishy Motorsports. It was going to be tough here tonight to win a championship for you, Michael Whiting. Everything had to go your way. P2, and reasonable night at the office, but hey, Scotty's just been so quick and so consistent throughout the championship.
Yeah, Scotty's been pretty consistent the whole way through season 20, so kudos to him, really. He's drove unbelievably. Basically, he had to DNF tonight, and I had to win basically to get the championship under wraps. So, but look, I'll take P2. It's a pretty handy result.
Mate, it strikes me that it looks like you're back in the sim and doing a few more laps. It's probably been, a number of seasons off and sort of winding down a little bit for you. Are you finding yourself a little bit more reinvigorated jumping into vets and relaxing into the racing a little bit?
Look, the advantage to vets is everyone's on the same setup, so you don't have that gap between setups as well as driver skill and all that sort of stuff. So it levels the playing field. There's a lot going on between vets, Pro Series, Scops, all the other leagues as well. So yeah, there's been a lot of driving, a lot of practicing. And yeah, I mean, with all the teammates in vets as well, it's quite easy overnight to jump in with them all and do laps and run race strategies and quality laps and just different bits and pieces that help each week.
Mate, in terms of things out there on the racetrack, at least tonight, Sandown's always really difficult to get the overtaking done because it's really down into turn one, end of the back straight as well. It's nearly, it strikes me always that it's kind of a lot more like Winton than you think in the psychology of how to get the move done here as well. A little bit of contact between yourself and Dan Hall, so it wasn't a perfectly clean night at the office by any stretch of the imagination, but Sandown, it always just challenges you. You've got to find a pass, create the opportunity, and then still get it done. Not easy to do.
No, it's really not around this track. You've really got to send it and just hope you don't lock a brake or touch the other car. And yes, with Dan Hall, I don't think race control's decided on that, so I won't say too much, but I feel I got squeezed a little bit towards the curb, but race control will make their decision and come back from that. But yeah, you do have to send it at Sandown. There's only a couple of very slim passing opportunities around there, so the other alternative is to save fuel behind the car in front and try and jump in the pit stop.
In terms of things, what's the plans for season number 21? We'll be seeing more of the 025 machine out there?
Yeah, we'll be back for season 21. Hopefully we can take it to the 9-5 boys.
Mate, good to see you out here tonight once again, and finally the floor's all yours to thank all those that make it possible for you and the team.
Can't do it, obviously. Family, boys at Fishy Motorsports. Big shout out to West End Motor Group, Jamie McKnight, does all the setups, as well as our main sponsor for Fishy Motorsports. You guys in the broadcast, everyone behind the scenes. I can only imagine how much work goes into it each and every week. Points updates, race control, broadcast, you name it. So just an overall group. I want to say a big thank you from the Fishy Motorsports guys.
Mate, congratulations here. We'll let you go and celebrate with the team and enjoy the final race of the season.
Yes, thank you, mate.
And finally, we will take one step further forward on the podium. It's not just the podium, it's the championship title as well. Going back to back at the tail end of last season, he was a man who was a little bit down on his luck. He was a man driving not necessarily his best and certainly felt frustrated. And we've documented that journey in the last sort of 8 months or so. Scotty, you were down, you were frustrated, you walked away, you took some time away. You're just driving so much better as a result, mate. And 2 titles in a row. You are on top of the world.
Yeah, how you going, Scotty, Dean, and Dan? Yeah, thanks, mate. It was, wasn't it? I did take a little bit of time off, took that season off, and just done a little bit of time trial once a week in the V8s, and just kept in touch that way. And it came back, and I've just been feeling good about where I'm at, the team I'm at. We've had a team change there, so that's really helped me. And just the community, the vets guys, they're all friendly, they have a joke, and so it's been really good the last 6 months, Scotty, and you've been there as well, so the whole environment that we're in at the moment's been really good, so yeah, you've been enjoying it.
Mate, in terms of things, I did actually just notice that Ken Latta dropped on by just to say hello. Like you said, it's the community, it's everyone, it's the sportsmanship, the title might have been yours effectively to lose, but at the same time it's everyone still out there and embracing it and celebrating, and that's what racing's about here at the V8 Veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I was seeing, it looked like there was some good racing. The blue flag guys, unfortunate ones that were on different strategies or went a lap down because of it. They were great tonight. They got out of the way, they seen what was going on, and they're well aware. So it was really good to be out there in Sandown. That's a really good track to finish the season with, Scotty. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, unfortunately I can't do the next week's race in the Pro Series. We're going to be away. So I put a bit of effort into Sandown tonight, and it was really good to come away with the win.
In terms of things, like you said, the team that's around you, management changes, just everything. Sometimes it takes that shuffle, that settle. You've got to find that environment that works for you. What was the environment like from Sean tonight?
Yeah, look, Mate, he is turning into the most unlucky Vets driver, like with his disconnects at the moment. It is unbelievable. But for him to go 2 laps down and then come back and finish to P7, you know, that says a fair bit about his character, and, you know, he's never give up, determination and fight on. So, you know, a big thank you to Sean, because he has his commitments at home, he has his family, so he's really made an effort over the last few rounds. Unfortunately, hasn't sort of worked out with internet issues, but he's made an effort to be there, Scotty, with me, and to, you know, to support me and help me through, because it does make a difference when you've got teammates around you and they bring an air of positivity and they keep you up and about, and you know, yeah, thank you, Sean, because you've been a bloke and I really appreciate it.
Mate, and then finally, the floor is all yours, because I get the feeling there's probably, you've said a few thank yous already, but I get the feeling that list is going to expand a bit here to celebrate back-to-back championships.
Yeah, well, it's always nice to. I'm looking forward to a break, but, you know, over at 95 Sim Sports, we can't make it happen without RaceKraft. They do a fantastic sim rig, so if you're in the hunt, head over to RaceKraft, check them out online. They also sponsor V8 Veterans, so fantastic group, and thank you, John. And Turn In Apparel, RSW Graphics is doing a lot of paints for the V8 Vets now, and you know, Ross is absolutely, yeah, he's talent. He's got some serious talent. Does the shirts over, jumpers over at 95. So if you need any apparel, go see them. Racing Ears and Prestige Cinematography, thank you very much, guys, for sponsoring 95. But, you know, more importantly to the drivers in V8 Vets, you know, thank you. Well done to Michael Whiting and the Fishy crew. I mean, they have been the team to beat over the last few seasons. They really work well together, and especially with the tracks we had this season, Scotty, they absolutely showed what teamwork was about, and they brought some drivers that perhaps were struggling, and they brought them forward, and I think they ended up with 6 drivers in the top 10, you know. So real credit to Michael's crew, and I'm not sure who got third, whether it was another Fishy most likely in the end, but, you know, well done to them, and to Luke tonight as well in getting third tonight. So absolutely fantastic effort. To the admin, you know, you make it happen. You know who you are. You do a great job. Yes, we've butted heads at times. We all have thoughts and opinions, but, you know, at the end of the day, you do a great job, and, you know, everyone appreciates it. So to you guys over at SimSpeed, another season of broadcasting for V8 Veterans. You know, it's absolutely superb. Scotty, you do a great job, and it's great to see you back on the comms for this final round. And Dan, you know, he's been fantastic. He's been stellar all season. He's been there and doing a lot of the bulk work. So thanks, Dan. You know, and that's about it, guys. So I'm sure I've missed a lot, the sponsors of the league, everyone, and like I said, it's really down to the drivers, not only in Split 1, but Split 2, Split 3, and Split 4 next season. So that'll be interesting to see how they roll that out. But, you know, thank you, guys. Really enjoyed racing with you this season, and, you know, it makes you want to come back. So thanks a lot, guys.
Mate, congratulations, and probably this one for the stats books as well. 5th championship win and the 2nd double. So doing the back-to-back title defense, mate. So congratulations on that one. That's one to stick in the books and enjoy for years to come.
Thanks, guys.
Righto, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up all the proceedings here from V8 Veterans for season number 20. But season number 20 doesn't mean the shuttering of the doors. No. Season number 21 means the expansion of not just 3 splits worth of V8 racing for drivers over 40 years of age. Oh, and by the way, they do check your age at the door. I can't get in yet. I'm only 32, so 8 years left to go. There will be 4 splits worth of racing. 150 drivers register each and every season to race in the V8 Veterans. That number now becomes 200. What does that mean? Well, the expansion into an extra split, where does it sit? All the driver pairings and where everyone will qualify will all get shuffled along. What does split 1 look like? Does somebody out of that 50 drivers that come in work their way into split number 1 and start to challenge up the pointy end? I can tell you there's a bunch of drivers from the Pro Series in the wings that are just waiting, chomping at the bit for the day that they turn 40 and get to join in this season. Well, it's going to be another season sponsored proudly by RaceKraft V8, RaceKraft Simulations over in the West. If you're looking for your simulation gear, if you're looking to upgrade the sim, if you're looking to test some new hardware, you're over in Perth, make your way on down to RaceKraft to see John and the team to get your new sim bits and pieces. I always go to John for advice when I'm looking to upgrade my sim, and he's always been a good buddy to me as well. It will all kick off for Split 1 coverage, though, on the 19th of September to start season season number 21. And it looks like Virginia International Raceway, by those shots, is going to play host to round number 1. So we'll join you all then. If you want to sign up, get on over to the V8 Veterans Discord, get in and a part of the action. For the sponsors that have supported us thus far throughout the season, this is the big old thank you, because it's not possible. Of course, we have the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. They get along and get in part of that one. But the other sponsors that make it possible for V8 Veterans: Player One Sim Gear, Nova Sim Sports, Logitech G, Parramatta Isuzu U, and SimSpeed are all of the minor sponsors that get involved to make this league what it is. From myself and Dean Hunt behind the microphones here tonight, on behalf of Dan Yeaman and the SimSpeed production crew, I want to say a big shout out not only to the drivers, to the fans, to everyone who's joined us across the duration of season number 20. It does not happen without the race control team. Big shout out to those guys who make sure that everything's administered on the night, to the drivers and participants behind the scenes that do scoring, server set up, rules, administration, and make the entirety of the series possible. We can't do what we do without those guys. So a big shout out to the team, and well, see you in just a couple of weeks, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ourselves for here tonight and the conclusion of season number 20, Scott Gamble's your new champion goes back to back. Who will put their name up in lights for season number 21 of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans? Join on the 19th of September to find out.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.